And welcome back to Bars Loaded Podcast with Ben and Nick.
Trialing things that go, well, how does this actually feel? And like, is this something where I can, you know, allow myself to have the exposure? And then is this something I can then go, hey, you're coming to me with some pretty banged up knees. Cool. We're going to try these things here. Knowing full well from personal experience that they do alleviate a lot of pressure, and this is going to help. Again, like,
Yep.
The lower back protocol that I run with a lot of my guys, like, I'm sure as shit not going to know if that works unless I've run it myself. And I mean, like, I think I've run it like 4 or 5 times in the last decade, and every single time without fail, it gets me back to point A very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, honestly, you haven't heard it yet because you were sick, but this is it was a big part of the conversation that I, on behalf of us, had with James Thayer.
Yep.
Is James works. You save it?
Fuck. Yeah.
Nice.
Just.
James works at a university in the gym facilities within the university and has exposure to the students, and he works, I think he's like an assistant director of that facility. And a big part of the conversation was around experience versus formal education and the blending of the two, and being able to look through the lens of experience and take the information that you're getting in that formal education setting and overlaying experience with it and finding what works, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense in the real world, because we're not 2D, we're humans. There's a human element to everything we do, and I love the idea of coaching and training being both a science and an art. The science being the X's and O's and the actual, like, the movements and the biomechanics behind it, and the art being the human element and how we apply those things to each individual that's in front of us. And I can't remember who said that, but whenever they said it, it wasn't me that said it. I'm fucking certainly not that smart to come up with that, but may have been shallow. Sounds like a shallow thing to say.
Yeah.
It was someone that's much smarter than me that said it, and as soon as
I'm
they
sure
said it, I was like,
I've heard
that that literally
Shallow mentioned that a few
describes
times
how I
over
think
the last
about
couple of years.
my job and what I do very, very well.
I think we're just playing a bit of catch up with some lag there.
Yeah, I think you're back on now. You're up to date now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, you were frozen there for a moment, but I got you now.
So were you.
Oh, was I? Did you hear what I said on that?
I caught like the tail end of it. Like the last bit I caught was like me talking about, like, I think it's a shallow thing, and then you kind of froze. I'm like, like, I'll just try and fill the gap there a little bit. And then you came back and you were still talking. I'm like, well, one of us is lagged.
Yeah, you were frozen, but that's okay. Yeah, I just said I think it was a shallow thing because it was whoever it was someone smarter than me, because that's some big brain stuff that I definitely couldn't have come up with on my own. But as soon as I heard whoever say it, I was like, fuck, that really captures the way I think about my role and my job as a coach very, very well, because it's important to know the biomechanics, and we'll get into that a little bit next week. As a coach, I think if you don't know that stuff, you definitely shouldn't be taking money off people to tell them how to exercise. But it's also like, that's one side of it. That's one side of the equation, and the human element is the second side of it, and merging those two together, I think, is super important. And that's where experience comes in.
Yeah.
Because I think back over the vast amount of years that I've been doing this now. I can't remember what I put in that post yesterday, but it's a long time. And yeah, there's just a lot of situations where what's written in a textbook, or what's like correct biomechanically, maybe isn't the number one best option for this human that's in front of me, and we make deviations based on what we see. and what we believe is the best option in the moment.
How dare you deviate from a textbook?
Oh, I know, wild, hey. But here's the thing: I also think that knowing the textbook stuff is super important, because then you know what you're deviating from and you know where to come back to if you need to. If you're just fucking walking around aimlessly in the wind with no actual like North Star, that's also a huge issue.
Mm. Like the way that I kind of like to explain that as well to some people is I'm like, to start with, we're going to learn the rules so then we can learn how to bend and break them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if
Yep.
people don't know the textbook, they don't know what they're actually doing. They think they're just sort of deviating for the sake of deviating, but they may be deviating from fucking nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like the North Star analogy as well. Is
Mm.
like, okay, this is true north. This is what, all of the literature. This is what we get taught in a textbook. This is the way things are, quote unquote, supposed to go. This is the North Star. This is the true north.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that, I can take these windy detours, like everyone that's ever listened to our podcast knows that we love to do. I can take these wild tangents in whatever direction, but I always know what true north is because I have an understanding of the basic principles and the textbook. Which I guess is probably another good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so everyone that's tuned in has just heard 7 minutes of the conversation that we were having prior to the actual conversation that we were going to record. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode
Welcome
of
back.
Bars Loaded. Welcome back, Cotter. Remember that show? You're probably too young for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that might have been before my time.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit before my time too, but I kind of caught the tail end of it just because my dad really liked watching it, so I kind of had to suffer through it. How's your week been, sir? Well, it's really only been a weekend because we recorded late last week, but how's your weekend? Back half
Uh,
of the week?
Back half of the week was pretty good. Um, had a good day at work on Friday with like a fairly busy day, which is always nice. Um, Good weekend of basketball. The guys were sitting in, I think, fourth coming into this round. They were playing the team that was sitting in second, and they absolutely fucking spanked them.
Nice.
Like there was a guy on their team. I think he's like 7-1, and we're like,
On
yeah,
their
like we're gonna,
team?
yeah, and we're like, yeah, we'll have to be mindful of him. But he was not the most effective player. But the guys really like pulled together some really nice basketball. I think it was the second highest scoring half we'd had all season so far. So at halftime, it was like 59 to like 31 or something like that.
Oof.
Like they were in front by, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure. Um, I'm just trying to remember what they ended up finishing on. Just give me one sec because I can look it up really quick.
Hmm.
Um, so Keysborough McKinnon was 95 to 77.
Nice.
Yeah, so they dominated,
Yeah.
which is really, really good. So, yeah, they played a really good game of basketball on Saturday night, which was awesome. Seeing the guys really sort of like starting to really pull together as a team has been really exciting over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, because what round's this for you guys?
We just finished
Four. I think
round
it's
round
round four.
five.
Round five. Okay, you're 2 weeks ahead of
So
me.
round six starts this week. So we've got another double header this weekend, which will be fun. We've got a nice early game on Saturday against the bottom team. So assuming that they don't come in too cocky, they should have a pretty big blowout on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Sunday, we've got to go out to like Geelong, which is like an hour and a 45-ish from my place. And then the following weekend, we've got to go out to Shepparton, which from my place is nearly a 3-hour drive.
Ooh, brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So that's going to be a big weekend. But yeah, that was good on Saturday, and then for pretty much the rest of the weekend, like Megan and I just sort of like took it pretty cruisy. Like she's a little bit under the weather at the moment as well, so
You got her sick.
yeah. No, I'm blaming the people at her gym. Definitely wasn't me. um, but yeah, so it was like nice cruisy
does,
weekend.
does she go to basketball with you, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
yeah.
Nice. I haven't dragged them along to football yet, just because they're such long days.
Well, like
And she's got a ton of uni assessments that are due, and she uses the weekend to do those while I'm away.
yeah, like I said to like especially on like Saturday, like Megan was feeling a bit rough on Saturday. I'm like, look, if you don't feel up to like don't stress if you just want to like stay home, just like cuddle up in bed with the dogs and watch a movie or something like that. She's like, no, I'll come. And then we left the game and like it was around an area that I used to live in, so I knew the area quite well. And we're leaving. And I'm like, do you want anything from Macca's? She's like, fuck. She's like, I was literally just thinking I could kill like a chai latte. So she's like, yes, I do.
I haven't had a chai latte for ages.
Dude, I don't think I've ever had one, to be honest.
Never. Oh,
There was
a time. There was a time when I lived in the States that I was so hard on the chai train.
Were you doing the whole like pumpkin spiced chai latte thing?
I did. I used to love a pumpkin spice latte. I'm a bit of a sweet tooth, and they're pretty good. But I would even make chai lattes at home. Like that's how hard on the chai latte train I was on, and I used to do like these chai lattes at home, and I'd grind some nutmeg on top, and then put like a nutmeg stick in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just at home, I'd make it look real pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for a while.
Yeah. Whereas like I don't have a big sweet tooth. Like I'm a whore for savory food. So like I ordered her like a chai latte, and then I was like, yeah, can I just get like a large chips?
He's got large chips on their own.
Yeah. I was like, just like something savory with like a high amount of salt in it. I'm like, yeah, I can fuck with that.
Have you ever put chips? Have you ever got Macca's chips and dipped it into a Macca's chocolate thick shake?
Oh, like many, 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 many years ago. Like not recently.
It's the greatest thing on earth. It's the second greatest thing on earth. The greatest thing on earth is chocolate and peanut butter together.
Chocolate and peanut butter together.
Yeah.
Can't say I've ever had that.
Really?
I don't think so.
Do you like peanut butter?
Yeah.
Do you like chocolate?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
Dude, peanut butter and chocolate together is the greatest flavor pairing of all time. It can't be beaten.
I have some really weird like combinations of food that I'm like, it sounds fucked, but it works. So I like pink lady apples. Mm-hmm. So I'll cut those up into like slices, and then I'll scoop peanut butter like straight out of the jar and eat that. And that to me, I'm like, is fucking elite.
Yep.
Blackberry jam and peanut butter as well. Oh, so fucking good.
Yep, it's like a peanut butter and jelly. I love those.
Yep, fucking winner.
Yep.
And then probably like one of my weirder ones that I'm a big fan of, which I used to do back in my like landscaping apprenticeship days, was like a toasted cheese sandwich, but like you put like the sweet chili tuna in it as well. So it's like a toasted sweet chili tuna and cheese sandwich.
That's pretty weird.
It's weird, but fuck me, it was yum.
I'm not a huge tuna fan, just in general.
I'm not usually either, but this sweet chili tuna in particular, fucking...
Is that the little John West tins, the flavored ones?
I don't know if it's the John West. It's the like, but it's the There's another brand.
It's a green tin and it has like the flavor thing around the bottom, and the sweet chili one's red.
Yeah,
yeah, I know the one, and it has a chili in it.
Or
is that
I think that's the base. One. That's the hot chili one. The sweet chili one doesn't. It just has flavoring through it.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
I like that they have one of those that's it has mayonnaise and corn in it. I like that one.
Of course you do. Fucking weirdo.
That's like the only tuna I'll eat.
Yeah, but like when I did my my landscaping apprenticeship, I would literally rock up to work. I would take my toaster, like my sandwich toaster, with me every day. You know, lunch would come around. I'd go to my car. I'd pull out like my little lunch box and my little sandwich toaster. I'd sneak over, steal the PowerPoint, and I like toast my sandwiches. And then one day my boss is like, dude, that smells like absolute shit. I'm like, I know it smells bad, but it tastes unreal. So like I did a sandwich swap with him one day, and he was like, oh, bro, he's like, that actually tastes really fucking good. And then I started putting like avocado on it as well. So it was like toasted cheese, sweet chili tuna, and avocado, and that was fucking legit.
I'm a bit of a sucker for a toasted sandwich,
Oh,
especially we've been having it for dinner. Well, we had it last night for dinner. We had burgers the other night for my birthday, which I'll get into in a little bit. But last night we had and made homemade tomato soup with cheese toasties because it's been really cold and pissing down rain here.
yeah.
It's like really nice.
So I made a big pot of like chicken and winter veg soup. Because again, like it's been cold as fuck down here. Just thankfully it hasn't been raining. It's been like bright blue sky. Like looking out the window now, like there is not a cloud in the sky. It's just bright blue skies, but it's like fresh as fuck.
Yeah, right.
And I did like a chicken and winter veg soup for us with like toast and like smothered in butter.
Yeah,
Oh, so good.
it's good. Hasn't been raining there, so we've got Melbourne weather, and you guys have got our weather. It's been pissing down here, like bad for over a week. It's been, I think they were saying last night, the wettest May in history so far.
Sounds about right. If you've got
And
Melbourne weather.
yeah, it's been really bad, and even today, like half my lawn's underwater.
Shit.
Yeah, and we live on a hill. So
So like we're like 18.5 degrees today.
okay, well, it's cold enough here that Em has the heater on.
Yeah. So like
It's
tomorrow like is a low of 6, top of 16. Wednesday is a low of 6, top of 18. And it's pretty much like lows of like 6 throughout most of the week. And then starts raining again as of next week.
yeah, we've got. I don't think our rain's letting up anytime soon.
It's good times.
It's really set in. It was coming down pretty hard before too. I was wondering if we would need to reschedule this because it was so loud.
Shit.
Like it was proper coming down for about half an hour.
Yeah. It's always
Didn't go mushroom hunting this weekend.
no.
What about all those unhunted mushrooms?
Oh, we've got to leave them out for like other people and like other weekends. Like we can't hunt them all in one weekend.
I'm curious. I don't think I got around to asking this last week, but I really wanted to. And I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I think maybe the conversation went in a different direction. But when you're hunting mushrooms, like, are you picking them? Are you keeping them? Are you destroying them? Or are you just like finding them, looking at them, and being like, oh, that's a nice mushroom, and then just moving on? Like, what's the goal?
So when we went out the other weekend, we literally just went for a walk in the forest to find like exciting looking mushrooms.
And
And
is there a book of mushrooms that you can like find out fun facts about them or anything, or is it just?
So I'm on like a Facebook group where it specializes in like fungi ID.
Okay.
So you'll get a lot of people in that will like upload photos of it and be like, hey, can anyone identify this mushroom? And then obviously people who know mushrooms really well, they'll be like, yeah, this is the species it is. It's either psychoactive or not. But we just go out to find like cool looking mushrooms. We take photos of them and then we just move on.
Do you have a special folder in your phone?
I don't.
Like a mushroom folder?
No.
Okay. Do you look back on them? Like do you take photos of them?
Yeah. So like I think I showed
then,
you the photos.
Do you look back at them and be like, oh, remember that mushroom? That was good.
I do actually.
Or like, do you really?
So like on Saturday night, like one of the assistant coaches on the team was saying that like he and his family went out to like Arthur's Seat. And he's like, oh, we saw this really cool photo of like this mushroom. I'm like, oh, well, funny you actually mentioned that. And then that's when I pulled up like the photos of the mushrooms that we found. So there was like that one there.
Yeah, I saw some of the photos, and I'm not gonna lie, I've
Like,
never seen mushrooms like I've seen mushrooms like that, I think, but that other one with the big red knob, I've never seen those before.
yeah. So I'm like, I just find it cool to be able to go like, oh, there's, mushrooms out there that like I've never seen before. And it's just like, even like you'll walk down like the paths, and sometimes you might just have to go like 2 or 3 meters off the track, like into the bush, and there's like a big clump of them.
So let me ask you this:
Mm.
do you ever find a big clump of mushrooms and like sit down or like lay down so that you're at mushroom level and pretend that you're in Alice in Wonderland?
No,
Okay, well, I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
not when I'm sober, at least.
Speaking of, let me tell you this. We're going to go down a little bit of memory lane for Nick right now. And I apologize for all the listeners because this may be disturbing to hear. But this is a story that Nick has involving mushrooms.
Let's go.
It's actually the only story that Nick has involving mushrooms, other than Nick likes to eat mushrooms, the edible kind of mushrooms. In his food. Like I like mushroom risotto is one of my favorite foods. But mushroom hunting, I have done once.
Mm-hmm.
That one time is actually the pivotal moment in my life, or one of the pivotal moments in my life. I have a handful where I literally remember distinctly halfway through doing mushroom hunting, standing up, looking at the person that I was mushroom hunting with, and just being like, bro, what the fuck am I doing? And walking back to the car and going home. so, so, backstory was playing footy.
Mm-hmm.
Had returned to footy after a bit of a break. After a game, had gone on a little bit of a partying spree, or otherwise known as a bender.
Mm-hmm.
That the partying had gone through the night and into the next morning with no break. And as you can imagine, at about 10 a.m., 11 a.m. the next day, um, things were a little bit messy, and there wasn't a whole lot of like cohesion in our decision making process. It was a little bit just like fast and loose. And someone suggested that we go hunting because it was raining at the time and it had been raining for a few days. Someone said, let's go looking for mushrooms because we can pick them and bring them home and bake them and make our own magic mushrooms. And I was like, sick. That sounds pretty fun and cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that for an adventure. So we went down to this local paddock and just started like walking around looking for mushrooms. And I had like a handful, and I just remember looking down and thinking, I must have like sobered up enough at the time, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing in this field in the pissing down rain with a handful of mushrooms?
Mm.
What am I doing with my life? And I remember just like looking up and looking at the guy that I was with, and I was like, bro, what the fuck am I doing? And he was like, what? And I just dropped the mushrooms and turned around and just walked home. In that moment, I was like, nope, this is not the direction I want to go.
Was that here in Australia or was it overseas?
That was here in Australia.
Nice.
Yeah, that was about 7 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, this is not what I need to be doing right now with my life.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's the only experience I've had with mushroom hunting. So whenever you say we went mushroom hunting, that's what I that's my reference point of what I think of.
Nice.
I don't think the mushrooms I found were as nice looking as yours.
We get some pretty nice mushrooms down here.
Mine were growing in cow poo.
Yeah, that's usually like a really good place for them to grow. The ones that we found were all growing like under pine trees and shit like that.
Is there a reason for that?
I think just different varieties like work in those areas. Like at this time of year, like especially down in Melbourne, like as it starts to get a bit colder, is when the mushrooms really start coming out. Again, like I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of like mushroom expert. Like Megan knows.
You sound really experty, though. Like you could run with that.
I have a little bit
Like I
of first-hand
reckon,
experience.
I reckon, out of all of our listeners, you would be the biggest mushroom expert in this field.
I don't know.
Well,
I think
if anyone's a bigger mushroom expert, leave a comment or shoot us a DM. But I'm going to say, like, if we take the principle of within like certain circles, like if you know the most on a subject, you're the expert within that group. So I'm going to go ahead and label you a mushroom expert because I feel like within the bars loaded community, you're the resident expert.
fuck, that's a low bar we're setting.
Yeah, well, we're talking about mushrooms here, man. I'm not sure it's like a heavily populated field of experts.
You would be surprised. So again,
Really,
in like
it's like this is a thing. Yeah, this is kind of mind blowing to me, man.
okay, so I'm just there's a group that I'm a part of um on Facebook. It's got 21,500 members in it.
Ooh, okay, wow, that's a lot more than I was expecting.
And it's literally just people taking photos of things and being like, ID, please.
How active is the group? Like, how many posts a day? It should tell you on the front of the group, or does it only tell you that before you join?
Um,
21,000 is a lot.
yeah. So, like, for example, the about section is like, we do not advocate the use of psilocybin mushrooms. We are a harm reduction resource that aims to limit harm, dangerous behavior, and poisoning via unidentified or misidentified mushrooms. So it's a
Okay, how
psilocybin.
many
So the group is called P-Man. So psilocybin mushrooms, Australia and New Zealand.
is psilocybin? Is that
The
the mushrooms that
psychoactive, yeah,
so they
magic
get you
mushrooms.
high?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, how
Mm.
many of the people within this group are asking for identification so that they can know if they should eat that mushroom to get high or not?
A lot. Well,
Okay, perfect.
actually, though, I'll rephrase. There are people that will literally just take photos of mushrooms and be like, "Here are photos of mushrooms that I saw out on my walk." There are some people that will be like, "Hey, look, I've seen this mushroom, looking for an ID on it." Um, yeah, like there's a range. Like people will take photos of something and be like, "Does anyone know what these are?" Like there was a guy who apparently ordered like a bunch of mulch from this like a garden supply place down here in Melbourne. He's like, "Oh, I got this, trailer load of mulch from these guys. Like, does anyone know what this mushroom is?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, like this is pretty much like a psilocybin mushroom." Where did you like? Just confirming like this is the place that you got it from because we're about to order like a couple of meters worth of mulch to put in our gardens.
Perfect. So it's 21,000 stoners, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Awesome.
Um, Seeing if there's anything on here.
Is that what happened in Alice in Wonderland?
I believe so.
I think that might be what happened. I think because it kind of seems like a bit of a trippy movie,
Mm.
and there's a
Okay,
lot of mushrooms.
so the group activity is there's 24 new posts just today,
Ooh, active.
and 87 new members in the last week.
Wow. Okay, I take it back. It is
Mm.
that's pretty big.
Mm. It's good.
Wow, dude, you've just opened my mind, expanded my horizons.
Funny enough, it's not the only time mushrooms have done that.
It's not, probably it probably won't be the last. Let's be honest.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
How's your
Well,
weekend?
I have another bone to pick with you
Oh, let's go.
while we're on the topic. So last week we recorded a podcast on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we got off the podcast, I went and made some food. I came back to my desk with my lunch. I opened Instagram. So this would have been 5 to 7 minutes after ending the podcast.
Mm.
I get on Instagram. Your stories pop up as the first stories in my feed. And it's you with no shirt on, with your butthole to the sun. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, what I have to say for myself is I went and got some sun, and you were like, dude, you're doing it all wrong. And you FaceTimed me showing you like resting on your shoulders with your anus facing the sun. And you're like, this is how you do it. So then naturally I was like, well, fuck, like if Nick's saying it's how you do it, like obviously I have to try.
I need to ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you like I know you like going outside into the sun for the
Have I
health
ever
benefits.
have I
of
ever
the-
actually put my asshole to the sun? No.
Nope. That's the
No.
second part of the question. That's the second part of the question. Stick with me.
Okay.
I know you advocate for the vitamin D
Mhm.
health benefits of sun.
Mhm.
Have you gone outside with a shirt on and let the sun seep through your face and hands and arms? Is that not enough for you?
My thing is like it's like having had bloods done before, like my vitamin D is always kind of like mid-range. So when I'm looking
Nothing
at
wrong with mid-range, mate. Nothing wrong with mid-range.
Mama didn't raise no mid-range bitch.
Mate, mid-range D is where it's at. Trust me. Too big and it hurts. Trust me.
You're an expert in taking mid-range D, are you?
I've been told that any bigger and it hurts. The big ones hurt. That's what they say.
Yeah. It's like, no, babe, yours is fine. The big ones just hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mid-range is perfect.
So there have been times when I will go out in just like a t-shirt and be like, yep, cool, like arms, face, hands, and legs are fine. But there are also going to be times when I'm like, you know what? If I can get some sun on more of my skin, I will. So
Okay, so
it
this
is not
leads to the second part of the question.
Yep.
If you need sun on more of your skin and you take your shirt, why stop at the shirt? Why not take your pants off?
How do you know I don't?
Well, you just said the sun has not entered Uranus. So
Well, it hasn't. So it is not uncommon for me to be like, oh, the sun feels really fucking nice today. I'm going to take off my shirt. I'm going to take off my shorts. I'm just going to like walk around my underwear for like 15 minutes.
Where do you walk?
I literally
Down
just
the
like,
street. Please tell me down the street.
no, I just pace up and down like the backyard on the grass.
Okay. And you do this just because you like the feeling of the sun, or is there more to it?
Well, first and foremost, it's literally just like I like the sun. It feels nice on my skin, and like especially when it gets colder on days like today when it is, you know, nice weather. There's no clouds in the sky, and the sun is warm. It's like I'm going to absolutely take advantage of that. Obviously, for the benefits of vitamin D, like I'm going to try and utilize
Maximize your absorption.
Yep. And then I just enjoy being outside. Like if I could work outside every day without being like cold or too hot or anything like that, I probably would.
I love how much of a hippie you are.
Oh, dude, I am like, I'm
You're
probably like the biggest like meathead hippie you'll ever meet.
Oh, I know, but I find it fascinating, and I just love like digging deeper into this because
Mm.
this is we share so many things in common,
Yep.
but this is part of our lives that I feel is literally polar opposites, and
And food.
I find it fascinating just to dig into it because I have nothing against it, obviously.
Mm.
Um, and like honestly couldn't give a fuck what you do and what you don't do, but I find it really interesting because it's not something that I've ever considered doing. It's like this whole when I say hippie, like quote unquote hippie, it's that like it's not you're not a hippie, but it's more the natural remedies, the
Mm.
nature, the outside stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That you enjoy that I'm just like, I'm completely opposite. Like, give me pharmaceuticals, give me indoors, and give me synthetic. Like, I'll take that all day. Like, and I've always been that way.
Mm.
So it's like I find it fascinating to talk to someone that's different because it's such a polarizingly different point of view.
Yeah, like for me, I like if I had the means to literally go and live off grid, I would.
Mm.
Like I would quite happily go back to like, cool, I have an indoor fire and that's my source of heat and that's my source of cooking. Um like if I lived in a house where it's like, oh, like I don't have a huge amount of electricity, like I have enough, electricity to, power my house for like my basic needs, like I would happily do that. Like I would quite happily move into a really remote area, live in a cabin like by a lake, and like, yeah, cool. Like this is just how I live.
Yeah, right. So do
Like
you like camping?
fucking love camping.
Oh, dude, I've banned camping in our household.
Like my thing is in the next like 12 months, I want to buy like a four-wheel drive and put like a rooftop tent on it. And then like, so Megan and I have like spoken about this and we're like, yeah, we want to be able to just sort of go, yeah, it's Friday afternoon. We finish work at, say 1 o'clock. Cool. We're going to pack the car up. We're going to drive 3 or 4 hours out of town and we're just going to go find like a camp spot to hang out at for the weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything worse. Emma loves camping.
Mm.
I've banned it.
Yeah.
I said you can go camping. That's fine. I'm not coming.
Tell Em she
There's
can
no
come down
chance.
and come camping with us.
There's no chance. I can't stand it. Why? Why would I do that? I have a perfectly good house with a really comfortable bed that has electricity. I can do everything I need to do here. What like? Why would I de-evolutionize myself and go and sleep in a bush? It seems It's like when people go to Bali. It's like, why are you going to a third world country? People are killing to get out of there.
Mm.
Why? 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 I live in not a third world country. Why would I leave the comforts of my country to go to a worse country?
So I
Why
would
would I leave
like
my house to go to the bush?
if the power grid went down tomorrow and it was like cool, like to survive, you've got to like hunt your own food. You've got to like um, you know, scavenge and sort of like oh sorry, not scavenge, fucking like go gather food like berries and shit. I'm
Yeah,
like that
hunt and gather your own food and stuff like that.
yeah, like I would be like fucking amazing. Like I can do this.
I mean, I'm sure I could do it if my survival depended on it, but at the
Mm.
same time, my survival doesn't depend on it. So
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to choose to do it. I'd be like, Em's like, "Do you want to go on holiday?" I'm like, "Sure." What 5-star hotel are we going to? Like, I want to, I want to go have a sauna, jump in the spa, come back, have a shower in the fucking marble shower, and put a nice dressing gown on. That's what I want to do.
See, like I would be quite happy to be like, oh, I'm going on a holiday. I'm going to go live in the bush for 10 days. I'll see you in 10 days.
Yeah, that sounds like Survivor. That doesn't sound like a holiday.
yeah, like, but like for me, like sitting around like a campfire, like even when I go camping, like I still have a comfy mattress to sleep on. Um, like I wake up and it's like just spending time in the bush. Like I don't have to worry about my phone. I don't have to worry about Instagram. I don't have to worry about like what's going on in the world. It's like cool. Like literally all that exists is what's right in front of me here and now. And there's something really peaceful for me in that setting.
Yeah, I don't get it. You guys are strange. It's so different. Like the other day when you were sick and you were like, oh, I'm gonna do everything I can to not take this medication. I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, just fucking take the medication. You'll feel so much better. You're
But
like, nah, fuck that.
this is the thing. Like it got to a point where I was like, all right, well, fuck it. Like I'll take something to try and help with it, and it did fucking nothing. So I'm like, why the fuck would I take something?
You didn't take enough.
Mm.
No, you gotta take more.
No.
Trust me, more is more.
Okay, like fuck,
Like,
fuck the whole like better is better. It's like more is better.
yeah. Well, like when people say less is more, I'm like, not really. More is more.
Mm.
Sometimes less is more effective, but less is definitely not more. More is more.
Yeah,
Less
but
is
no, like
less.
I'm definitely the kind of person like when I get sick, I will try my hardest to not utilize any sort of pharmaceuticals to like mask what I'm going through. Like if I get sick and the doctor's like, "Oh, you need antibiotics," I'm like, "No, thank you."
Well, I saw. See, this kind of ties in. How do you feel about this? This is off the cuff.
Mm.
How do you feel? And I saw this on Instagram the other day, and
Mm.
it's slightly triggered me. I'm not going to lie.
Mm.
It's regular listeners aren't going to be surprised that Nick often embodies angry man yelling at cloud and gets triggered at things. This was one of those moments. How do you feel about the statement around the sentiment around if your doctor, how did it go? I'm not going to be able to quote it exactly, but it was something along the lines of if your doctor is prescribing you medication and not telling you to go outside and stand in the sun, drink more water, put your feet in the dirt, put your ass to the sun, whatever it is, all of these other things, they're not your doctor, they're your drug dealer. How do you feel about that?
I'm in two minds, right? So, like for me, I'm a big believer in a balance between like Eastern and Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, my mum had cancer a couple of years ago. She went through the whole like chemo, radiation treatment, and it's like, cool, there may be time and a place for something like that. When I look at most people nowadays and a lot of the issues that people have, it's like if someone goes to see their doctor and they're like, hey, doctor, I got high blood pressure. I'm like, if the doctor's not sitting there going, well, like, what are you doing exercise wise? Like, what are you eating? Like, what are you doing to manage stress? I kind of look at it and I go, I feel like a doctor should be able to look at these things and go, oh, you have high blood pressure, but you live a sedentary lifestyle, you don't exercise, you don't do all these things that can manage it. I feel like there should be an obligation for them to go, do these things first. And if you can do these things, then maybe we'll look at some medication to help things along. Like, again, I would say that as a whole, I'm pretty far removed from pharmaceuticals and medication and like Western medicine. Like, because like for me, if I go to a doctor and I'm like, hey, look, these are the issues I'm having, and their answer is just to throw a pill at it, I'm like, I'm not really interested in that. Um, like my grandparents, for example, they take a shitload of medication on a day to day basis, and they had my nana's cousin come out like 2 years ago and stay with them. Like she's from the UK. She came out and stayed with them for I think a month, and they couldn't believe. So my nan's 80. Her cousin is like 77. You would not picture her as a 77-year-old. You would be like, she's maybe 60. Like posture, she's like perfectly upright. She doesn't look like she's even remotely limited with mobility, and she takes no medication.
That's
And like, so
great.
literally on the second day, they're like, my grandparents said to her, they're like, where's your medication? And she's like, what do you mean? And my grandparents just said, they're like, well, you know, you're in your late 70s. Why aren't you taking any medication? They couldn't believe the fact that she's on no medication because she's actually healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess for me, and again, like, I will very much preface this, like, I'm not a doctor. I'm no health expert. I am a meathead
You're an expert. You're an expert within your field.
within my field, yeah. But I would
Yep.
also say, like, you know, if you have chronic health conditions, like, I'm not the kind of person to help sort you out. Um, I look at a lot of, and this is, man, you gotta fucking send me on a massive fucking tangent down a really fucking big rabbit hole.
That's okay. I find it really interesting because I have my own point of view as well, which we'll get to in a moment.
So I kind of preface it saying, look, I don't think we have healthcare here. I think we have sick care
Mm-hmm.
because nothing that is done within, well, I'm not going to say nothing. A lot of what is done within the health space is just managing symptoms of illness. It's not actually going, how can we be proactive about making sure that people are healthier? It's all going, hey, you have these symptoms, cool. What can we give you to negate these symptoms without actually addressing the root cause? That is my issue with healthcare here in Australia and in the Western world in total. Like, again, this is where, like, I'm a big believer in, like, if I can take some natural remedies to try and mitigate symptoms that I might have if I do get unwell, like, I'm more likely to want to go down that avenue before I go, what medication can I take? Like, you know, when I was sick the other week, there was something that I did which was really, it was the first time I've tried it, but it was quite interesting to see how soothing it was.
Shelving.
Not quite.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
I mean, I probably could have, but I don't think I
Definitely.
would.
You definitely could have.
Well, it was like, so I would take like, a jar of honey. That's obviously like, natural honey that I get, and like putting garlic in it.
Okay, that's not where I thought that sentence was going, but yeah, garlic in honey, and then
But
eating
like
it, or
putting it in my tea. Yeah. So
yeah,
like
okay, that sounds great. Yeah,
taking out like a ton of garlic, putting it in honey, letting the garlic infuse the honey, and then like putting it in my tea and in like my cooking and that sort of shit. And it's like, cool, like that fucking soothed my cough like crazy.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, why wouldn't I utilize something like that over taking some cough medicine?
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is, I'm going, well, if I can have something like garlic, honey in like peppermint tea, that to me sounds like a better option than going and taking like a cough mixture that's got a bunch of shit in it. Like that,
Yep.
again, that's my personal opinion. But I mean, like, I'm also the kind of person that's like, I won't drink tap water.
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes back to a little bit of the like quote unquote hippie Ben,
Yeah.
but from the more the medical side of things, and you said the healthcare system or sick care, I think was, yeah, I know, that's so disgusting. Yeah, that's actually turned me off tap water, and I don't
Yeah.
drink tap water since you showed me that photo last time.
Yeah.
So
It's fucking disgusting.
congratulations, I'm now a
Thank you.
bottled water drinker, as everyone can see. I mean, when I drink water, that's been there for a month. I'm slowly working my way through it.
Yeah. So the next step for us is getting you drinking out of like either a glass bottle or like a steel, like a stainless steel bottle, where you're not
Well,
getting all the
here's the thing.
microplastics.
I want to get a Yeti, but
Yeah.
I don't drink enough water to justify it.
Okay.
I literally
Can I make a suggestion then? So this bottle, it's a 1 liter bottle. So the other, you've got a couple options. One, this is like $30 off Amazon. The
yeah,
other
but I'm not
option,
gonna.
the other option is you go to Bunnings. They pretty much have Yeti knockoffs there. Perfect fucking thing for you.
Yeah,
Keeps your
nice.
water cold. Like,
But it doesn't say Yeti on it.
No, you could get a texture out and be like,
I'll probably put
not
stickers all over it
Yeti.
anyway.
Exactly.
But here's how I feel about the post or the story. I think it was saying
Hmm.
whatever it said. Is like, yes, you're right. Your doctor, that is quite literally what your doctor is there for. It's a medical doctor, right? So I feel like all of the things that you're saying are also correct,
Mm.
but I feel like what this message is saying is, if I go to you with these problems, you need to tell me to go and spend time in the sun, or go and exercise, or go and lose weight, or go and eat better. When that's not what they're there for, right? I
Hmm.
feel, in my view, is there has to be an element of personal responsibility in your own healthcare,
Hmm.
and that is looking after yourself, eating properly. We've got the Australian dietary guidelines, we've got the minimum exercise requirement guidelines that every person on the fucking in the country should know, because we're taught it in school. It's readily available. It's not hard to find. It takes a 5-second Google search, and these bare minimum base level requirements for, like, quote unquote healthy Australians will come up.
Hmm.
And if everyone was to follow that as a minimum, there would be a lot less burden on the healthcare system as a whole.
Hmm.
And it's almost it's so my view is like, yes, we know that exercising regularly is going to mitigate a lot of the issues that we're seeing medically. We know that eating a healthy diet is going to mitigate a lot of the obesity issues that lead to these chronic diseases or illnesses. We know that. So where is the personal responsibility? Like, when we're not 5 years old, we're adults.
Hmm.
We know what we need to be doing, and at some point, we're making an active decision to not do it. And then what we're doing is, then we're going to a doctor because we have health issues arise because of the decisions that we're not making, or that we are making, is to not follow the guidelines. The medical issues have arisen, or arose, whatever the fuck the term is for that. We have these issues now. We go to the doctor. The doctor's like, okay, fuck yeah, you're in a pretty bad place. This is the medication that you now need to take because you've put yourself into this situation.
Mm.
If you don't want to be in that situation, and you don't want to be going to the doctor for these issues, there's a level of personal responsibility that falls on us, where we know what these guidelines are. There's an entire industry that you and I are a part of, called the fitness industry. There is a plethora of information out there. Why are we going to doctors for fitness information?
Because
That's
people,
not what they're there for. There's
but
there's
it's
an
like why
entire
people,
industry for that.
yeah,
So
but
go
people
and
go
get
to
your
doctors
information
for
and implement it.
people go to
Why?
doctors for soft tissue injuries, and they're like, "Oh, your elbow's sore. Don't do anything that hurts your elbow." It's like, that's dumb
Yeah, but
advice.
so
But
what I'm getting at is, you're getting your information from the wrong place. If
yeah.
you want medication, go to a medical doctor, because that's what they're going to give you. If you want advice on how to live a healthier lifestyle through fitness, go to a fitness professional. If you have a soft tissue injury, go to a physiotherapist. If you
Hmm.
need diet advice, go to a dietitian. Like, go to the place to get the advice that you want to get, but don't go to a dietitian and get mad that they didn't tell you to exercise,
Yeah.
because they're gonna tell you how to fix your problem nutritionally. Don't go to a doctor who's there to give you medication and get mad at them that they didn't tell you this other stuff.
Mm. I I don't agree entirely with that. I look at a doctor. I'm like, cool. You are a GP. You're a general practitioner. General should be like a general overview of health and well being. That's what I see a GP being like. You like, again, if
But
you've
they're an
got as
MD. They're an MD. They're a medical doctor.
but most of them are
Do you know what I mean?
GPs.
Yeah,
So if
GP,
you're
general practitioner, under the medical
yeah,
profession.
but I still sit there and I go, if like a doctor should be there to ease illness, right? For the most part.
Or I think they're there to fix. to
Yeah.
medicate issues. That's why I know what you're saying. I agree with you. I think
Yeah.
that there should be people that do that. I
But do you know what
just
I
don't
think would?
think that a medical doctor is that person, because by title, that they're a medical doctor. They're there for medicine.
Do you know what I reckon would be a massive like obviously I think you and I are kind of like agreeing on the same thing, but from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, I think personal trainers need to be included in like the allied health scope, so that personal training is rebated to actually give
Oh,
people like
I
think about it
agree
this
with you.
way:
But for that to happen, there need the
industry
barrier to
overhaul.
entry needs to be risen beyond belief,
But
because
even
the,
if
the course
like
needs to be a lot harder than it is
But even
for
if the
that to happen.
course was like, hey, you've got to go, like, obviously, we're not going to the extent of a medical professional, but if it was like, hey, you need to go and do 12 months of study to make sure that you meet certain, like, requirements, like, you might be able to go do a Cert 4, and that might be enough to get you in the industry, but it doesn't give you the level of expertise and qualification to be at a level where you can be part of this group over here. So if you just want to do general shit over here, or sports stuff over here, like cool, that's fine. But if you want to work within the scope where it allows you to then have a
Let
rebate
me
where
ask
you
you. Let me ask you a question, because I don't know the answer to this, because I don't have private healthcare,
Mhm.
and I have Medicare. But to be honest with you, I have never used it. I
How do you
haven't
not have
used it.
private healthcare?
Or I think I do now, but I didn't up until about 6 months ago.
Because I was going to say, surely you'd be getting taxed through the ass if you weren't.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. To be honest with you, I didn't realize that was a thing, up
Mm.
until very recently, when we started with our new accountant, and she was like, "Do you know that you're getting extra taxed because of how old you are without?" And I was like, "No, I didn't actually know that." But
Yeah.
anyway, that's a whole other thing. Out of curiosity, is
Mhm.
working with an exercise scientist, for example,
It,
is that if you go to an exercise scientist for personal training, is that rebatable?
it might be. I know if you see a
Not
remedial
for an
massage.
injury,
Yep.
not for an injury, just for personal training through an exercise scientist, a qualified exercise scientist.
It might be. I believe seeing a like remedial massage therapist, like you can claim that. Um,
Because if it isn't, I feel like it should be.
I 100% think it should be as well. I'm just having a look at.
Yeah, because
Um,
if it isn't, that's pretty much what you're talking about, and I feel like it should be, because
yeah.
that would then be the route to go down. If you're like, okay, I want advice on how to fix my issues via natural means, via exercise,
Hmm.
but I want to do it through the healthcare system. Okay, instead of going and seeing a medical doctor, go and see an exercise scientist that's going to teach you how to exercise properly.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it does include it. I just couldn't obviously confirm 100% if it does.
Yeah, maybe that might be something for us to look into, because that pretty much would be what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
But the fact that neither of us know means it's not spoken about enough either way.
Mm. So I'm looking at like the things that are covered through me. So I can see an acupuncturist, a chiropractor. I can get dental prosthetists, dentists, hospitals, opticals, pharmacy, physiotherapy, podiatrists, and remedial massage therapists.
So no, so nothing there to do with exercise.
No.
See,
Which,
I feel like exercise scientists should be on that list, and that would
yep,
solve the problem that you just spoke about, because
yeah,
that those people would need to go and do a 4 year degree.
yep,
They would have a deeper understanding of how the body works, the anatomy, the physiology, all of the things that we basically started this podcast with an hour ago, they would have a deep understanding of that. And then over time would be able to layer that through the experience as well. It would kind of raise the bar a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of who's able to provide this service. And it would be a route for people to go down that would be a more natural way of doing things within the healthcare system.
Yeah. And then I think like, because if you think about it as well, like with what, like you and I, we're not cheap when it comes to coaching.
No.
And obviously price can be a bit of a barrier of entry for some people, especially at the moment, shit being as expensive as it is. But if it was the sort of thing where it's like, hey, look, you can come and see me and you get a rebate on 50% of your coaching fees.
Mm-hmm.
One, our businesses would probably be a lot busier, like because we still at the end of the day we still get our money.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of, we're obviously talking about like the impact that metabolic disease does have on the healthcare system as a whole. Like how much would the healthcare industry be positively impacted if people were healthier, more active, and not needing that sort of medical attention that they like? You think about it this way, it's not that hard to make meaningful impact on people's resting heart rate, their blood pressure, which are two pretty decent like health metrics that we both track. I look at, there's a guy I started working with a number of years ago. He came in, his blood pressure was like 196 over 110. It's the highest
Mm-hmm.
blood pressure reading I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was very adamant that when he started with me, he's like, I'm not here for weight loss. Like, he was a big guy. And he's like, but I'm not here for weight loss. I just want to get strong. I'm like, that's great. But I said to him, look, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I'm nervous to try and put you through anything to get you strong because of how much your blood pressure is already going, like, is going to rise as a result of the stuff that we do. The reality is, like, I'm like, I need you to be able to like do things like a leg press. And a leg press statistically is an exercise that's probably going to spike your blood pressure the most. If
Mm-hmm.
you're already at a point where you're in an extremely high level, if I push it much further, there's a chance you could die. And I'm like, and frankly, I'm like, as much as I love the fact you want to get strong, I also want you to make 40.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where
Yeah.
I sit there and I go, well, if he could come and see me and, his fees were rebated 50%, like that would probably be enough for me to go, you know what? I might go do an exercise science degree, get that qualification, just tick the box, get a piece of paper. Do I think exercise sports science is really that necessary as far as degrees go? No, I don't. But if it meant that like me having that piece of paper could service a much larger range of people in a way that had, again, like I'm not a weight loss specialist. I don't love working with people if they come in with a primary goal of weight loss. Like I generally tend to say, look, you know what, I'm probably not the best person for you. Maybe go and deal with someone who genuinely gets their fucking, their dick hard when they help people lose weight. Like
Yep.
that for me, I'm like, it just doesn't sit well. Not that it doesn't sit well with me, but
You just don't
like
enjoy it.
no. And I'm like, if someone came to me like, hey, I want to get really, really strong, or I want to, learn how to train a bit better so shit stops hurting. Like that for me, I'm like, oh yeah, fucking oath, we can do that. But I think the main thing is if there was a way that we could rebate the fitness industry to sort of like help be a better first line of defense. Because the reality is, if like, let's say, for example, if someone was to work with a personal trainer who was under that umbrella of, hey, look, we are, within the allied health scope, you've come and seen me and you've been working with me for 6 months and we still haven't made meaningful impact on those changes. Now I'm going to go and send you to go see the doctor and they're going to help. Like,
Yeah.
for example, like I know a lot of women who, well, I know a couple of women who run businesses that they kind of specialize in like women's health. And they will quite often get people that will come and see them after they've gone through the traditional, I'm seeing my doctor, I've gone and seen this person, I've gone and seen that person. They've said that I do X, Y, and Z. And these people in particular, like, you can tell that the doctors that they're seeing don't actually know what they're talking about properly because they've gone down that avenue when the answer are down this avenue here. And it's really obvious when you actually know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's kind of what I was saying is the issue isn't the doctor. The issue is that you're going to the wrong person.
but I agree and I don't. Like, there are sometimes I've had family members that have gone and seen the doctor for X, Y, and Z reason, and the doctor's like, I just do this. I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell already based on the medications that you are taking that there are going to be contraindications here. Are they taking that into consideration? And they're like, they didn't say anything. I'm like, you might want to fucking call them and ask, because there's a really fucking obvious issue here. And again, I'm not a trained doctor, but it's like there's a conflict here, and they either don't know about the conflict or they've overlooked it. In which case, like, they probably shouldn't be a fucking doctor.
Yeah, well, that's just a bad doctor. Like you get,
But like my thing is like, how the fuck? And this is my other thing. Like how much training do doctors go through around nutrition in their medical degree?
well, like hardly
Fuck
any.
all.
That's why I wouldn't go there.
But
But
that's the thing
this
is,
is kind of the thing. We have this culture around like, oh, you have an issue, go see your doctor. We see it all
yeah,
the time. Like I see it in my family all the time.
yeah,
What I'm trying to advocate for is like pick where you go to get your advice from, and if you want this type of advice, don't go to this person that you know isn't going to give you that advice. If I want nutrition advice, if I want to lose weight through nutrition, I'm not going to go to the doctor because I know that they don't know about that. But
yeah,
what I'm saying is a lot of people don't understand that the doctors don't know that. Like the doctors know about medication. They get taught this disease gets treated with this medication.
yeah.
This disease gets treated with this medication. That's what they know. So that's what they're going to
Mm.
do. So what I'm trying
I
to say is like, don't turn up to a BMW dealership and be like, what the fuck? If your BMW dealership doesn't sell Mercedes, that's a Mercedes dealership.
yeah,
That doesn't make any sense. You're just going to the wrong place.
yeah.
If you want
I like
Mercedes, go to Mercedes.
like that analogy. Like I completely agree with it. And I understand that like obviously GPs are trained to treat illnesses with medication. I just look at it and I go, I think if we are looking at it being under the bracket of healthcare, like we're told all
There
the
needs to be
time,
better options.
yeah, like we're told all the time, like your personal trainer, like respect your scope of practice. It's like, why aren't doctors told to respect their scope of practice? Like if someone comes to them and like, hey, look, my shoulder's really sore, like I was going to the gym and it's just a bit sore. The doctor should have to sit there and go, hey, you know what? I'm actually not that qualified when it comes to to dealing with soft tissue injuries. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to write you a referral to go and see a physio. Or
Yeah,
you're
I
wanting to
agree.
lose
Let's
weight
just
and you,
go to the right place.
yeah. But I think if you and like, I mean, I'm not a fucking nutritionist. I'm pretty open and honest with people when they come to me. It's like, hey, as far as my scope of practice allows me to engage with you when it comes to nutrition, it is very limited.
Mm-hmm.
If you want someone who can write you a meal plan because you don't want to have to think about it, amazing. I can send you to someone else. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy to do that because I respect my scope of practice and I respect where my skill set and knowledge starts and ends. And again, I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone, but I feel like doctors go, I went to medical school for X amount of years. I studied medicine for this long. Like I know all because I'm a doctor.
Mm.
Again, not all, but some. But the problem I think is like someone in my family, very, very close to me, years and years and years ago, and I'm not going to state who it is, but someone very close to me in my family went and saw the doctor a while ago and was like, hey, I'm having issues with my food. I want to get lap band surgery done. They went and got lap band surgery done to lose weight. Nothing fucking changed. As I said to them, I'm like, you don't need to be speaking to your doctor. You need to be speaking to a dietitian who specializes in like eating
Overeating.
disorders.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that it wasn't even necessarily like gorging in massive amounts of like food consumption. It was just like the sorts of food that they were consuming was fucking, it was the diet of a 5-year-old. It
Mm-hmm.
was like if you said to a 5-year-old, hey, you get to eat whatever you want.
It was
What do you
that.
want to eat? It's like, I want to eat ice cream for breakfast and I want to eat pizza for lunch and I want fucking like fish and chips for dinner.
Hell yeah.
Like diet of a
I had
fucking
fish and chips
child.
yesterday.
Yeah. Not to say that fish and chips is inherently bad, but like no understanding of like energy balance, no understanding of, just like dispersion of macros and how things should like can be structured to set things up for success. I said to them, I'm like, for one, I'm like, give me 6 months to do all of your shopping, all of your cooking for you, to teach you different habits. Like this isn't even me coming in from like a professional standard. Like this is me coming in as like someone in your family who loves you and gives a shit
Caring
about
family
you.
member.
Like you pay for my food and I'll do all of that. The rest, like there's a nice exchange of services here. And they're like, nah. I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm like, I don't want to hear about it then, because it annoys me. And you fast forward like however many years it's been now, and there's actually not really been a huge amount of change. And you have to ask yourself, like, why? It's like, because the behavior didn't change. And that's where I'm like, cool, they should have gone to a dietitian. They should have gone to a nutritionist. They probably should have gone to a psychologist as well, to help bridge the gap of going, well, why is there a behavior here that isn't shifting? And again, like, I think you and I keep coming back to the same point, just from like, it's like the whole, like, if we draw like a 6, like from my angle, it looks like a 6, but from your position, it looks like a 9. I think we're coming to the same agreement from different perspectives. Like, if you're going to see a doctor, it's like you're going there for medication for a disease that you're having issues with. And again, my personal bias, I'm quite happy to admit that it is a bias. I think a doctor should be going, have we explored options here before we go down these options here? Like, there should be a process and a sequence to a treatment plan. And if someone can't handle this for whatever reasons, it's like, cool, maybe we do need to jump them to stage 7 before we worry about trying to nail 1, 2, and 3. But I'm like, I think that there should still be a starting point where they go, we are going to start you with things like diet, exercise, and a bunch of other things that we know have massive positive health impacts, to try and reprogram habits for people so that they are healthier long term, rather than just going, oh, well, I have an issue, pill, or I have an issue, pill, I have an issue, pill. Like, I think we should be trying to do more for people at a root level to promote healthier behaviors as a whole, rather than just trying to band-aid solve everything. That's my personal opinion.
I agree with the second half of that statement. I just don't think that onus falls on the doctor, because I feel like the doctor's doing their job. I feel like
Yeah.
that the first half of it, where you're like, there should be this step, this step, this step, this step before we get to the doctor, I do agree with. But I think that's more like a personal responsibility to go and seek out those things. Once you get to the doctor, I don't place that responsibility on them, because that would be like, if we go back to the car dealership analogy, that would be like me rocking up to a BMW dealership to buy a BMW, and the guy being like, hey, listen, man, this is an expensive sports car. Have you driven a Prius first? Like, have you gone and done your practice in a cheap car before you buy this expensive car? They're just going to be like, dude, here's the BMW. Like, I'm going to take your money. The doctor's going to be like, oh, you're here for this? This is how I'm going to treat that.
Yeah.
And I feel like before that, there has to be a level of personal responsibility, where it's like, if I want these natural fixes, or if I want this, I need to go and find it. I can't expect this person who specializes in this to do that first. But we're agreeing. I just feel like we're disagreeing slightly on where the
onus,
where the responsibility lies. Yeah.
But do you think, like, if let's say someone goes to a doctor and they're like, hey, look, I'm having these issues, like, I just want something to help with it. Do you think the doctor has a responsibility? And this is where I think it is a, what's the fucking term I'm looking for here?
Ethical?
Like an ethical responsibility to go, hey, like, have you actually, like, what are you doing with your food? Like, have you actually ticked the boxes here? Because at the end of the day, they're still getting paid for that session, whether they fucking give someone a script or not. I think a doctor has a responsibility to go, have you because, like, again, think about it this way. If someone comes in and they're like, hey, Nick, like, I'm having issues with my squat, I want you to fix my squat. If you're like, okay, cool, like, let's go, we're just going to do this, this, and this, because I know that that's how we build a nice, big, strong squat, and you don't take an injury history and you don't take a bunch of other stuff that's actually relevant to an outcome. Like,
yeah, but that's part of my job, though.
But, like, if we're looking at, like, the car dealership, do you not think that, like, there would be a responsibility to go, like, hey, look, do you have a driver's license?
No.
So you think someone should be able to buy a car without a driver's license?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they shouldn't, but I don't think it's the car dealership's responsibility to ask the question. Their job's to sell the car.
So I would sit there and go, I would imagine as an ethical responsibility, regardless of your profession, there should be to essentially, like, pre-qualify that person. Like, if you want to go and get a loan, they're not just going to go, oh, you're Nick. Yep, you have a tax file number. Cool. Here's an approval for $50,000. They're going to go, do you have the ability to repay this loan?
yeah, because that the loan's a little bit different because they're at a disadvantage if I can't pay it back. They're not pre-qualifying me for my own safety. They're pre-qualifying them for their safety.
But this, I think, comes back to, again, like they're doing that because it's a responsibility to make sure that they get the outcome, right? I still personally think, and again, like I understand where you're coming from, going, a doctor is just doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like, when you look at, like, I mean, do you know if doctors here in Australia have to do the whole like Hippocratic oath?
No, I've got no idea. I feel like the using our own profession as the example.
Mm,
I feel like the injury risk is probably that's part. I feel like that's part of my job, just because it would it would play a role in my decision making process if they couldn't do something or whatever. I feel like it would be more appropriate of an example for if someone comes to me and is like, I want to build a really big squat, let's
mm,
do a squat session. And then I'd be like, well, have you eaten breakfast today? Like, do you have the energy requirements to perform this session? I'm not going to ask that. That's their responsibility, not mine. I'm
mm.
going to start the session. If they gas out halfway through because they haven't eaten breakfast, I'll be like, why can't you do this? And they'll be like, oh, I haven't eaten breakfast. And I'll be like, well, that's fucking dumb. I'm not going to not do the session because they didn't eat breakfast.
Mm. But would you, like, if someone came in and they're like, oh, by the way, I haven't eaten breakfast today, would you potentially then change how you approach it?
100%, yeah. But if I go to the doctor and say, I don't want lap band surgery, I want you to put a nutrition intervention in place, that would be a similar conversation, because then they're going to say, well, I don't know how to do that. Maybe I write you a referral to a dietitian. But if someone comes in and says, oh, I want a squat session, that's probably the equivalent of someone going to the doctor surgery saying, I want to lose weight.
Mm. But do you think
Then
if,
I'm just going to say, here's your squat session. The doctor's going to say, here's Ozempic. Like
but
they're the ways that we solve those problems.
But do you think if someone comes into a doctor and they're like, hey, I need help losing weight, do you think the doctor's going to be like, oh, cool, well, what have you tried so far?
Yeah, and the person's going to say, "Oh, I tried to diet, but I just can't stick to it, and nothing really works for me. I think I have a slow thyroid." And the doctor's going to say, "Here's Ozempic. It's
Do you
going to
not
make you
think that
lose
they're going to
weight."
run? Do you not think that they should be then required to go, before we give you X drug, we're going to maybe do some blood tests to see how your thyroid's functioning? And we're going to check a few things here and there before we worry about giving you a plan. Because again, otherwise, at the end of
I
the
think
day,
those things should happen. I
yep.
don't think it. I don't think it's the responsibility of a doctor, because
So I think it
my
should be.
yeah.
I think
I
before you're going to go and
think those
prescribe.
things. I
Yeah, I
think
think
those
before
things
you're going
should
to
happen.
prescribe medication, which can have, you know, that obviously medication has side effects. I think we should be sitting there going, are we mitigating overall risk here? And are we doing right by the patient by making sure that we're giving them the intervention and the medication, or potentially lack of medication, that is best suited to the individual based on their circumstances?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
ethically, I think that's the right thing to
because
do.
I
But I
think by
think
just
also we
going,
have to understand that doctors are a private practice that are in business not necessarily to do the right thing, but to make money. Like they're
yep,
getting paid,
yep.
and so
So
they're also going to take the road of least resistance and get paid as much as they can.
yeah, and this is where, like, as much as like I'm a like, I think at some point in time, like, it's quite okay for me to admit that, like, I'm a fan of private practice. I'm a fan of capitalism. I'm a fan of people making money when they work hard. Like, I have
Absolutely.
no issue with that. Um, I still think that for something like healthcare, like if you are being, a primary care physician for like families and shit like that, and you are, trying to keep people healthy and out of hospitals and all that sort of stuff, I still think that there is a duty of care. That was the term I was looking for. A duty of care to go, I'm going to take some history on this person. Like, if someone came in and they were like, hey man, like, I want a squat session, I want to build a big squat, and then they come in and they do a squat with a barbell and they blow out their knee, and you're like, well, what the fuck happened there? Like, and like, oh well, I actually didn't tell you, like, I actually like partially ruptured my ACL last week training, but I wanted to like try and get around that. It's like, yes, there is potentially onus on the person to go, yeah, I kind of injured myself last week, but I also think that there's an onus on the coach to be able to go, like, are there any issues or anything like that that I should know about that might inhibit your ability to perform well today? I still think I
100%.
think there's
No,
equal
okay,
responsibility.
this is perfect. I agree
Yeah.
that there's a duty of care to gather as much information as possible so that you can apply the right tool for the job,
Hmm.
which would be like an exercise, injury history, etc.
Hmm.
And I do doctors definitely have that same duty of care, but their decision making process or their gathering of information isn't what intervention, like, I'm going to gather this information, and if you haven't tried all these other things, I'm going to push you in that direction. It's, I'm going to gather as much information to see if you qualify for me to give you this drug and if it's safe to do so. That's the lens that they're looking through, because that's what they're trained to do.
Mm. I think the other thing as well that I think really applies here as well is when you look at how much time we actually get with someone. Like if someone comes in and sees you for a consult, how long are they seeing you for?
An hour.
Yeah, how long did standard GP appointments go for?
Yeah, not very long.
6 minutes. I think it's like
Yeah.
6 or 7 minutes. Like the whole idea is like you come in, you're like,
And
okay,
3 hours late.
yeah, it's like cool. What ails you? Oh, I have a stomach ache. Okay, cool. Here's like an antacid or whatever it might fucking be. Like, but again, I still think that again, I'm just talking like my personal opinion on the whole like
Well, that's what this
healthcare.
podcast is, bro. It's just both of our opinions.
Yeah,
No, hopefully no one's here for anything other than that, because that's all we're given.
I still personally think that there is, and again, I understand that's not how it is, but I personally think that there
That's how
should.
you would like it to be.
I would like to see doctors actually go like. I was pretty fortunate. I had a GP that I'd been seeing for like 18 years. Like he had been my doctor since I was like 13 years old. He was my doctor up until like 2021 when he retired. Now, I would go and see him and he'd be like, how's your family? Like, how's your mum? Because he used to see my mum, he used to see my sister, he used to see my dad. I think he saw my brother a couple of times. He'd be like, how's your mum doing? Like, how's your dad? Rah, rah, rah. Like, how's business? And like, we would talk. Like, but I would go and see him and it was a 20-minute appointment because he would actually ask questions. I would go and be like, hey, man, like, this is the list of the bloods that I want done. And be like, cool. He's like, why do you want them done? And I would explain to him. And he would be like, and like, I remember there was one time when I asked him to like do some like specific blood tests around like my testosterone levels. And he looked at me and goes, I just need to ask a question. He goes, are you doing this because you want to take steroids? And I'm like, no. And he goes, I would hope that you would feel comfortable enough to at least be honest with me. Because he's like, if this is something you want to explore, I want to make sure that we're going to be testing things to make sure that you're doing this in a way that's as healthy as possible. And I said, look, to be honest, you and I know each other well enough that if this was an avenue that we were going to explore, I would be trying to get like good quality stuff from you, not some fucking dipshit who sells it out of a bathtub from the gym. But I said, look, I'm like, I track my training, I track my nutrition, I track all of these things. I just want to start tracking some markers in my bloods and that sort of thing to just trend that data across the board and have a correlation between certain data points so that I can make better informed decisions. And he's like, cool, no worries. Was happy to do the test for me. But if I just go, like, I've had other doctors I've had to see in the interim while he's been on holidays or whatever, and I've got him like, hey, look, I need these blood tests done. And she's like, no, I'm not doing them for you. I'm like, why not? She goes, because I reckon you're using them for steroids. I'm like, you're not my actual doctor. You don't have the right to fucking make that assumption. And how dare you fucking tell me that outrightly when you've been speaking to me for all of 30 seconds?
Yeah, and how dare you tell me I'm not allowed to know what my own blood count, like my own blood markers
Yeah.
are? It's
So
my own blood.
I literally went back out into the like entry place. The doctor, I'm like, I need to see another doctor. I'm like, that woman is an absolute cunt. And they're like, I'm like, look, like you have a good doctor's practice here. I love my normal doctor. Can I book in to see this other doctor? I want to see him today. I don't care what time it is, but I'm not speaking to that woman, and I will never see her ever again. And they're like, yep, okay. Literally, they jump on the phone, they call this doctor, they're like, yeah, you can go through and see him right now. I'm like, fantastic, thank you very much.
Yeah, I've always found that odd when I've had clients that have had issues getting bloods done before as well from their doctor, and I'm like, just insist. Like, it's your blood. You have a right to know what's happening. It's your body, it's your blood. You have a right to know.
Yeah.
It just they can't gatekeep that.
But yeah, I think like to sort of like summarize, like I would love to see healthcare actually become healthcare and not just let's just like turn the turnstile of like people get in and out and as quickly as possible and there's no genuine like, and yet I don't mean this and like that GPs don't care about their patients, because I know a lot of GPs and I know that they really care about their patients. They're always trying to do the best that they can with what they've got. I just wish that rather than going, oh, cool, like, yep, you're coming in for this, like, here's some medication now, off you go. I wish that as a whole, I wish that like doctors, GPs, nutritionists, personal trainers, I think that the whole allied health, I wish that people could actually have justification to have a health team around them. And that like, if I was going to be like, hey, look, let's say, for example, like, hey, Nick, you're my client. We're doing all this amazing work together. Yep, cool. I'm also going to have a meeting with Em, who's your nutritionist. We're going to talk about like the diet stuff and how what diet stuff that she's got going on for you is going to work into the training stuff that I've got going on with you. And then we've got like, you know, Michael over here, who's your GP, and we're going to talk to him about getting some blood tests done at these certain points. And like, this is what we're trying to achieve. And can you just make sure that when he comes in for his bloods, any other health checks that you think might be relevant to these goals here actually works as a nice little ecosystem of overall healthcare. That
We do that.
I know, but like that's what I would love to see happen across the board, not just for people who are like, I want to take my training and stuff new, like appropriately, like, you know, fucking Susie who lives down the street who, you know, thinks that 20 minutes on the bike while she sips on a, you know, a nice latte is going to be like conducive to positive health outcomes. I wish that she could get that same level of care because that's just the standard. I know she can, but she won't.
She can. She has to go to the right place for it, though.
But that's the thing, she won't. And if she went to see a doctor to be like, hey, look, these are my issues, this is what I want to do, they're not going to then turn around and go, well, you need an actual healthcare team around you. They're most likely just going to go, oh, well, if your knee hurts when you go to the gym, stop going to the gym.
Yeah. And I agree it would be cool if that information, if that was sent here. But I feel like there is that option for people. They just need to go to the right place.
Okay, like, because I agree with that wholeheartedly. But you think about it, like with how much information is on the internet, like you could get great results if you knew where to look. But most people don't know where to look because they don't know any better. Like if I Googled, how do I develop a 300 kilo squat? What am I likely going to get?
Oof, I don't know. It's that's a wild west.
Okay.
If you type in how to get big arms, I reckon Rich Piana's 8-hour arm workout might come up.
Okay, I'm going to write in how to build big arms. Okay, so madmuscles.com/workouts is the first thing that comes up. There's about 26,900,000 results. Healthline is one of the first things that comes up. Then obviously bodybuilding.com comes up.
Healthline? What is it like? If you feel like you need big arms, reach out.
So 8 exercises for bigger, stronger arms. Building muscles in your arms requires focusing on the biceps in the front and the triceps in the back, because apparently you can train the triceps in the front too. So we have to confirm that. They're opposite functioning muscle groups, so they require different strength training exercises. Having bigger, stronger arms can give you a feeling of confidence. Muscular arms can also convey a sense of athleticism and strength, but there are some important practical benefits to having stronger arms too. Anything that requires upper body effort, from picking up your kids to lifting heavy boxes, can be done more easily with stronger arms. In addition to boosting your daily functional fitness, having more muscle mass has the ability to increase metabolism, increase muscle endurance, strength and tone, and lower your chance of injury. In this article, we'll walk you through 8 of the best exercises for your biceps and triceps based on research finding. So, the best exercises for biceps, starting at number 1, is the concentration curl. Number 2 is the standing cable curl. Number 3 is the barbell curl. And number 4 is the chin up. The best exercises for tricep, they've got as the first one is a triangle push-up.
Okay, I wouldn't do that.
Is a dumbbell tricep kickback.
Oh, wouldn't do
Fucking
that.
hell, this has already lost me. The next one is a barbell dip, or like a straight bar dip.
It's not
The
bad.
next one is an overhead tricep dumbbell extension. Other important exercises. While
Pretty
having
bad
bigger,
information.
stronger arms may be your number one strength building goal, don't ignore the other muscles in your bodies. Exercises that strengthen your back, shoulders are especially important to build your arms and prevent injury. Consider including the following exercises to your strength training routine: deadlifts, bench press, shoulder shrugs, planks, bird dogs, and squats.
To build your arms.
Apparently so.
Sick.
So the bottom
I really
line,
wouldn't.
would
It's
you
bad
would you do bird
information.
dogs to build your arms? I know you don't like direct arm training, but if you could do bird dogs, whoa, you'd be a fucking weapon.
And if bird dogs built my arms, I'd probably do that, to be honest.
Yeah, like
Probably feel like less of a fuckwit doing a bird dog than a bicep curl in the mirror. Dude, we've just got this tangent has now gone for almost an hour.
dude, I told you were opening up a fucking rabbit hole with that question, because this is something that I like. I talk to people a lot about. Again, like I think your point of coming back to like a doctor's goal is to treat illness with medication. Like I agree with that. It just annoys me that that is the first point.
Yeah, and that's completely okay that annoys you.
Yeah,
That's the exact point that I was getting at an hour ago.
I know,
Is
but I obviously had to fucking
that's the exact point that I was trying to make an hour ago, because when I see posts like that, which started this whole thing, the thing that annoys me about it is that you're asking the wrong person for you have advice in your brain that you want to get. There's people that are going to give you that advice. You're going to someone that you know isn't going to give you that advice, and then complaining that that's the advice that you got.
But my question is,
That's the thing that irks me about it.
do
Is it's
people actually know
okay
that they aren't the right people though?
if they're making that post on Instagram. Yes,
But like,
that's the thing. I'm not talking about a general population here, because I think there's a vast majority of people that don't understand that. They're not the people that are making that post on Instagram. The people that are making that post on Instagram know exactly where to get the advice that they want. And what they're saying is, I went to a doctor and this is the advice that they gave me. That's not my doctor. Well, no, that's not true. They are your doctor, and your doctor, their job is to give you the advice that they gave you. The issue is that you want different advice, and there's people out there that you know very well are going to give you that advice. You're just not going to those people, or you're making a point of trying to make a doctor look stupid for not giving you the advice that you want. I'm not going to go to a nutritionist and ask for an exercise intervention. I'm not going to go to a sports scientist and ask for a dietetic intervention. I'm going to go to the person that I know is going to give me the advice. The people that are making the post on Instagram that irks me, that started this whole thing, they know what they're doing, and that's why it irks me. Don't paint the medical profession in a bad light for doing what they're trained to do. If you want holistic approach, go to the people that are going to give it to you.
can I play devil's advocate here though?
I think we've done that.
We're about to go on another hour spiel. People don't know what they don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but I think there's also a personal responsibility to know things as well.
Okay.
That's where my stance is. Like, I'm a big advocate for personal responsibility.
Yep.
Don't blame someone else for the advice that you got if you didn't know any better.
But do you think that there are areas in which people go, hey, there is an overwhelming amount of information and I don't know where to start. I'm going to go and ask someone I think may know the answer. Do you think it is then the responsibility of the person that they're going out and seeking to then go, hey, I'm not the person for you to speak to? Like, for example, if let's say...
Yes, but this is the other thing, right?
Yep.
I do agree with that,
Mm-hmm.
but for that to be the case, you're assuming that one option doesn't work, and that So for what you just said, that example is me going to a doctor for weight loss, and the doctor saying, actually, you need to go see a dietitian and get your nutrition fixed up because that's how you're going to lose weight. Now, that is one way to lose weight. That's the way you and I and Emma and our businesses are revolved around helping people in that avenue.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also medical interventions that help people lose weight. Now, they also work. So it's not a matter of this doesn't work and this does work. I'm not the person to help you. You need to go see this person. It's you've gone to this person. They have an avenue to help you. That's the avenue they're going to go down because that's what they do. If you wanted the different avenue, that's where you should go. So it would almost be like if someone came to me and said, I want you to help me with my diet, I'm going to be like, well, actually, I don't do that. I don't have the capabilities to do that. This person does.
Mm.
If someone comes to me and says, I want you to help me with my exercise, I'm going to say, cool, I can help you with that. Here's an exercise program that is strength training biased because that's what I do. I'm not going to say, actually, go and see that guy who runs marathons. He can help you with your cardio fitness, right? So it's like there's more than one way to do things, and I can help in this way. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you to go and see someone else, and they're going to help you in their way. If someone goes to a doctor and the doctor's like, I don't have an option for weight loss, that's a different story.
Mm.
They'll refer you out to someone that can. The issue is they do have an option for weight loss. It's just not the option that you like.
Mm. And I think, like, obviously, like I've mentioned, like my personal bias a few times. I think my personal bias just keeps coming back to the whole, like, I think, like, again, personal bias. Like, if someone was like, hey, I want to lose weight, like, there are ways that I would go, have you addressed these things first? Doctors are going to go, cool, well, if I can give you this drug and it's going to make you lose weight.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Problem solution. Like, this is the solution that I use. And it's different than the solution that you and I like, but it's still a solution.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's sort of like, essentially, like, again, an hour-long rabbit hole that that I could easily go for another hour down.
I'd be really interested to hear what our listeners think on that, to be honest. Shoot us a DM, let us know.
Like, especially if we do have any listeners that are in medicine.
I know for a fact that we do.
Cool. Can they DM us and not, I don't want to say like justify their position because I don't want this to come across like abrasive or any way, but like I'm curious to see what their method is around, like if someone does come to them and go, hey, look, I want to lose weight, like amazing.
Yeah. Start a group conversation with both of us or DM the Bars Loaded page because I know that we have a listener who is a doctor,
Cool.
who is also a powerlifter, who
Cool.
gets coaching for powerlifting and competes.
Cool.
And I'd be really interested to hear the perspective because
I would be too, because I like, again, like I've worked, like I've coached GPs in the past before. I've worked with guys that are specialists, like, so I've worked with 2 GPs and a guy who is he's like a cancer specialist. And like, oh fuck, I could go down such another big rabbit hole here. I'm really trying not to. I'm gonna zip my lips and not go down this fucking rabbit hole because I'll rant for another hour.
let's talk about training.
Yeah, I haven't trained in 2 weeks.
You haven't?
No.
I had a week off too, a week and a half.
Yeah, I'm going to be starting back tomorrow, which I'm actually quite excited for. The gym's almost finished their recovery stuff.
Is that why you had time off? Because they were doing or because you were sick as well,
Well, I had the week off because I was sick, and then
and then you
last
had all
week,
basketball the weekend.
yeah, and then like last week I was technically like better, but I also was like I'm still at a point where I'm like I just haven't done enough. Like I didn't really feel quite ready to go back to the gym, and I was like, look, at the end of the day, if me going in and doing so, I was my priority was kind of like I want to get back to work first before I get back to training.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going in, I was doing a couple of sessions of coaching. I was like, I'm fucked. I was like, if that's enough to tax me this heavily, I'm like, I'm probably not at a stage where training is doable yet.
Yeah.
So it was more so just a focus of like, you know, do little bits and pieces sort of like around the house, like whether it be like housework or like walking the dogs or whatever it might be. You know, get back to a point where it's like actually getting in a decent amount of food first to make sure that like recovery is sorted both from a sleep and a nutrition perspective. And then this week I'll start filtering some training back in, but I'll probably start with like 3 sessions this week.
Yeah, perfect. Are you writing a program, or are you just kind of winging it for the first few sessions, and then when
For
you're
the
back in the groove, start to kind of piece together a bit of a plan
yeah, so the
for the bars
first
loaded combine?
yeah, so it's funny. Like obviously
Do you
the
think we should add? I want to add a couple of things.
what do you want to add?
I want to refine the bars loaded combine, as I've affectionately labeled it. I think we need to. I think we need to cut one of the sprints out, because we've got 3 sprints, like a 40, a 60, and 100. It's a little bit much. Like there's
I
a
reckon we
bit
cut the 60.
repetitive. Let's go 40 and 100,
Yep.
and then we'll do those on a track,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's do a vert and a broad,
Mm-hmm.
a bench 100 kilos for reps,
Mm-hmm.
a 1 RM deadlift,
Mm-hmm.
because that kind of ties into your goal of deadlifting something big as well. So that gives you a little bit of a purpose to push that.
Yep.
And I can still deadlift with the knee. That's not an issue. So that kind of gives me something that I can still push fairly heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we maybe add like an agility, like a change of direction as well. So maybe like or should we do like an endurance thing as well?
No.
Maybe a change of direction, like a T test or something.
Well, I mean, so if we've got 40, 100, broad, vert, max bench reps at 100,
One
max
RM deadlift.
deadlift, I reckon. So if we are thinking about like scoring this, obviously, like if we do open this up as like a public event that people can also enter, and we are going to look at scaling it in terms of like overall athleticism, I reckon you place relative body weight percentage.
Or should we do? Yeah, but I'm thinking. Should we do a change of direction or like a power clean?
I reckon we do a power clean.
That'd be kind of cool. Hey,
Yeah.
so if we do like 40, 60, 40, 100 broad vert, 100 kilos for reps, 1 RM deadlift, and 1 RM power clean. That's pretty sexy.
Or do you want to do a power clean, or do you want to do like power snatch?
Nah, fuck snatch. It's too hard for people. It's too hard for me. We could do a clean. We could do like a clean and jerk, like a power clean to overhead. Basically, just like get the bar over your head
And you can
from
either
the
do that,
ground, like a ground. We just call it ground to overhead. Get it there however you can.
or do we want to do like a max overhead lift? So it can be like a push press, it can be a strict press, it can be a split jerk. So we unrack it at rack height,
And
and
get
then
it
it's
over
just
your
getting
head.
overhead.
I'm thinking of something explosive, because here's like
You don't think a 40 and a broad and a vertical are going to be explosive enough?
they're explosive, but I'm thinking explosive under load. So they're like speed,
Yeah,
and then so you've got speed, then you've got like jumping.
yeah,
So
So
we've
you're
got
thinking
like
of like exercise like
so
power based.
so we've got like sprinting, jumping, and then we've got strength endurance. Then we've got like top end strength
Mm.
with those things. And then I'm thinking like something power based. That's like let's measure power output under load, and what would be like the kind of like the easiest thing to do that where it's not going to be a skill limiting factor. It's going to be how much power can you generate under load factor that's going to be measured. And like a snatch is going to be good, but the skill factor is going to be a big one in limiting the load as well. Whereas with something like a power clean, it's like bend over, grab the fucking bar, and just get it to your shoulders. And there's a skill element, but I feel like the
Mm.
skill element's a lot lower, and the power element's a lot higher.
I really like how you try to interweave like a super total
A
slowly but
little
surely.
a little bit, but I feel like if we're thinking, because the reason I'm thinking of this is like if I want to think around the basis of like building a well-rounded, complete, like quote unquote athlete,
Hmm.
and what are the qualities that we want within an athlete, and then how are we going to test that? That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm.
I don't care if it's a power clean or not. I just think that would be a cool way to do it. But I don't mind the shoulder to overhead idea.
Hmm.
Getting it overhead as any way you can. But then I also think like it'd kind of be cool if we take it off the ground.
So I'm just looking at like the AFL combine. So obviously not as cool as like the NFL one, and probably not going to be as cool as our one. But they do a standing vertical jump. They do a 20-meter sprint. They do an agility test. They do a 2K time trial.
Brutal.
But that sounds shit.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't mind doing an agility thing, but at the end of the day, that's going to be horrendous on my knee. That change of direction's what I can't
Mm.
do out of anything.
I reckon if we do 40, 100 broad vert, 100 kilo bench for reps, 1 RM deadlift. I've got another one that I reckon would be fun to add in there, and that's max chin ups.
That'd be pretty fun. That'd be hard though.
Yeah. Um, I do quite like the idea of having like that like strength power
Element.
element as well.
Even if it's you, do you follow Blaine McDonald? Story Bappy. I think I've sent you some of his stuff
Maybe.
recently with the like that really big broad jump onto a box, a
Mm-hmm.
seated broad jump
Yep,
onto a
yep,
box.
yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, so his Instagram's ridiculously cool, but he does a lot of heavy um, box cleans, like cleans from a soft box
Mm-hmm.
that's like at about knee height, and then into a power clean, and that's like pure power, and it's not from the ground.
Well, I
That
mean,
could be a fun
we,
one too.
we could do like a hang power clean.
Yeah, hang power clean. That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah,
All right.
that'd be sick
All right.
because that kind of training that is going to aid in the speed as well. So
Mm.
it kind of all plays in together, but it gives us a little bit of a testing point.
If we are looking at, say, overall athleticism, do you think we should be doing this based off percentage of body weight? So, like, I'm just wondering, like, do we do the max bench, do like max bench reps at body weight, and then we score the deadlift based on like relative percentage of body weight, and then we score the hang clean off percentage of body weight too?
Yeah, I don't see a reason why we can't. I mean, I think Oh, the 100 kilos is nice for the bench though, but I think maybe we come up with a scale, like a body weight scale. But by the time we do this, we're going to be similar body weights anyway. Like, how much do you weigh?
At the moment, I'm like 98. Well, actually, after being 6, I'm down to like 95.
Yeah, I'm going to be like 110 when we do this.
Yeah, but if I'm going to be getting ready for an athletic endeavor like that, I'm probably going to get down to about 92, 91.
Yeah, so I'll give you a fucking 5 rep handicap.
Oh, fucking bring it on, cunt.
I think we fin. I think we. I mean, we could do body weight for reps, but I kind of like that 100 kilo thing because then we can match it against the NFL guys and see where we rank.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do a 100 kilo bench for reps, and I think we do the deadlift scaled against body weight and go, well, like if you're 110 and you pull say 330, it's like cool. There's a 3 times body weight deadlift.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy with that.
And I think we give points based on the highest relative deadlift compared to body weight.
We can even do that for the bench press, and we can work it out. Like this was, like we could do to equal the amount of points that you get for it, and to make it even, we can say we can work out the percentage of body weight that it is, and then say it was like, say 100 kilos is 73% of my body weight. We can go 20 reps times 7.3, and that's how many points I get for that event.
I'm going to say not for the bench. I reckon the bench we just do, it's total reps.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Mm.
I'm going to weigh 150 then.
Good luck in the sprint then, motherfucker.
Yeah, cool. I think that's a good little like cluster of events that I think will really can guide some fun training decisions too.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're doing a 42, when we get a 40 time, we'll be able to stack that up against some of the NFL guys too. They do 40 yards, but even if we make it 40 yards, that way we kind of can be like, okay, these times are equivalent, and then I can be like, yeah, Xavier, you got nothing, boy.
Well, I mean, like, 40 yards is like 36.5 meters, so we can easily do that.
Yeah, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
We'll do a 40-yard, 100-meter, and we'll go from there. I think that's fun. That'll be a cool event.
Do you want to?
Go ahead.
So the only shit thing about like me drinking a Monster at the start of the podcast, I have to piss so badly.
Yeah, go for it.
Just give me 1 sec, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Does that feel better?
Oh, dude, that was like the most glorious piss of my life.
So I sent most of those through already this morning to the man that's going to be in charge. So,
do you want to give a bit of a name drop? Are you going to make it official?
I mean, it's definitely official, but yeah, I'm now officially a client again. So I am being coached by the one and only Killian Hamilton, who featured friend of the show.
Big friend of the show.
Big friend of the show. We'll be making a return soon, hopefully. And so he's taking the reins. We have a call set up for tomorrow morning. So once this episode airs, it'll be a week ago. But yeah, we'll be underway and things will be moving. So I sent that through to him this morning, and I was like, I said 40, 60, 100, vert, broad, bench for reps, and 1 RM. So I'll just take the 60 out and put the hang power clean in.
Yeah.
And I said, this is the goal. Is like improve this. So it'll be cool to see how that plays out.
Nice.
And it's exciting I feel like that's a really good little like cluster of events to test overall athleticism.
I do as well. I think it's like a good cluster to test like explosive and strength components. I love the fact that there's nothing endurance based in there.
Yeah, which if we're going like true athleticism, there would be an endurance event, but neither of us are interested in that, so fuck that.
Like, I always look at, like, again, my background in athletics around, like, what was a really good event that sort of displayed overall athleticism was like the decathlon.
Hmm.
You usually had like a 1, a 2, like an 8 or a 15, and then like some throwing and like field events.
Yeah,
And it was a really good overview of being like, who is a great overall athlete.
yeah,
But I think fuck endurance events.
yeah,
I think you and I are big enough meatheads that we're going to be like, short, sharp, thank you very much, let's get this shit
yeah.
done.
I just want to be fast, strong, and explosive.
I'd say like fuck endurance events. And the funny thing is, like, Megan's prepping for like a 100K run later this year.
Yeah, I saw that come up on her Instagram, dude, and I was just
Yeah.
like, fuck, that's so intense.
Like, even at the moment, like, she's clocking up like 60Ks of running a week. Like,
That is brutal.
she's an animal. Like, it's just
That's
wild.
brutal.
Like, I mean, fuck, like, we went out to like a national park a couple of weeks ago and she ran like 40Ks in the mud.
Just, just for fun.
Like, it was an actual event that
It was
she
an
did.
event, but yeah,
Yeah.
but still, that's
Um,
wild. That's fucking Ned Brockman status.
yeah. Like, it's so
Is
impressive.
she a Ned Brockman? Is she a Ned Brockman fan?
Undoubtedly.
He's a legend.
It'd be
I'm
like
not even an
someone,
endurance athlete, and I'm a Ned Brockman fan.
I say it'd be like someone like not being a fan of bodybuilding, but like not being a fan of like C-Bum or like Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, of course they
Like,
are. He's a weapon. Hey, did I send you the thing that he's training for now that he's just committed to doing? It's
was
like
it 1,000 miles?
yeah, it's
It's
something
like,
just so insane.
it was like 100 miles a day for 10 days straight. Yeah. So, because Megan did a 100-mile run, I think it was like last year. No, it was early this year. It's earlier this year.
Was that the one in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And literally, I think she started at like 4 o'clock on Saturday morning and pretty much like ran all the way through to like mid morning on Sunday without sleeping. And just, I'm like, that is just a level of pain and suffering I don't think I would be willing to undergo
so just imagine doing that for
every
10 days
day.
in a row.
Like, fuck that.
Like that is just, the mental toughness on the man that's next level.
But like, this is also where I look
That,
at
like
things from a.
he's the dude that Goggins looks up to.
Wouldn't it be fucking sick if Goggins was like, I'll come out and do it with you?
Oh, dude, I don't know if Goggins could hang with Brock. Brockman's the man, bro.
I reckon Goggins would do it to try and prove a point.
I don't think he could.
Oh, I reckon he's enough of a psycho that he would.
Yeah,
He would. I reckon he'd
think
give it a crack.
he'd want to. He'd definitely give it a crack. I don't know. Ned Brockman's a beast.
Yeah, no, he's a fucking. Ugh.
He's like
So-
top dog.
Yeah, big dog.
Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for this call in the morning. I'm pumped to kind of get this plan underway. So I haven't trained for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Just I've used it as a little, knowing that this was coming up. I've used it as a little bit of a break, completely, just to give my body a bit of a break, let the knees settle down a bit. It swelled up a little bit, and then I just wanted to start fresh. And so I was just like, I'm going to focus on a few other things for the next couple of weeks, and then when I start fresh, I'll be really like keen to get stuck into it. So yeah, it'll be nice to have someone else making those training decisions for me, because as you know, we spend all day making training decisions for other people, and I really like it when someone else does that for me, so that I don't have to do it. Someone who's not emotionally invested in the outcome of the decision. And I like to see how other people do things as well. We spoke off air, the conversation prior to the conversation, which people caught the back end of a little bit, was that Killian's one of those people that tends to do things a little bit differently and makes his own decisions and doesn't really follow follow the traditional way of doing things just for the sake of it. I'm really interested to see how it plays out. There's a mentorship attached to it as well, so I'm doing both.
Nice.
Which is cool. So yeah, it'd be cool. I've had one official mentor, which was Will Crozier, which was fantastic and really helped shape the way that I think about powerlifting significantly. And then this will be, obviously, I've had a lot of unofficial mentors along the way, you being one of them, obviously. But then it'll be nice to have another kind of official, quote unquote, mentor as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the only thing that's new with me.
Nice. What sort of thing are you? So obviously, part of what we were going to talk about tonight is sort of like traits of like sort of positive traits that we look for within a client. Before we really go into that one there, what traits do you think you're going to bring to this relationship that will be of benefit to you without doubling up too much on the things that we have listed?
Nice segue. I am coming into this completely open-minded. Because I know it's going to be different to what I've done in the past, and so I've just kind of I'm coming in with no expectations around what it's going to look like, how it's going to flow, how the progressions are going to be, what are the measuring sticks that we're going to be looking for, the program design, everything like that. Is I have no preconceived notion of what that's going to be. I'm coming in very open to the process and just completely handing over my trust in him to him, which is, I feel like me hiring him as a coach is me saying, I trust you enough to pay you to make these decisions. The least that I could do is give you that trust to make the decisions the way you see fit to make them.
Yeah.
Which is that I feel like that's going to benefit me greatly, because not only am I going to get the full benefits of the programming decisions that he decides to make, I'm also then going to be exposed to something different and learn that process along the way. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah, I think that's important, man. I think if I'm trusting him to make the decisions, I have to give him the space to make those decisions.
I'd agree.
So yeah, that's a really nice segue into the I guess the primary topic of discussion that we wanted to land on today, which at 2 hours and 4 minutes in,
sorry guys,
it'll be a little bit less than that because I'm going to cut out the toilet break. But at around 2 hours in, we've landed in the position that we wanted to land in. So,
classic us.
It's not about how long it takes to get there. It's just whether or not you do.
4 hours later. 1 year later.
Oh, God, I'm always down for a SpongeBob quote.
Oh, so good.
So the topic was 5 rules or 5 expectations for clients, or the top 5. Now, I've wrote a list, you've wrote a list, and we're going to go through the list, and I feel like there's going to be a little bit of discussion around each point.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you want to lead us off with your first one?
Sure. I guess I'll just preface this as well by saying these are in no particular order. Certainly not the sort of thing where the first one that I'm going to mention is like the most important, but I think they all hold a level of equal value in terms of importance. But my first one is the willingness to work. So I think what I kind of mean by that is I can write you a program, but if you don't do the work in it because you either just can't be fucked or it doesn't work into your schedule, it doesn't really matter. Like, we need to have a discussion prior, during, and in the lead up to stuff where it's like what is the expectation around the level of work required to achieve the outcome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, man, because I mean, the industry that we're in, the results, the adaptations that we try and create through our coaching, and the populations that we generally try and work with, they're not easy outcomes to come by. And it's one thing to get a plan, or it's one thing to get a program, but if you don't do it, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Mm.
It's not worth the app that it's programmed into. So it's one thing for us to lay our expertise out on paper and design the perfect program and the perfect progression scheme, but you actually have to you have to actually apply yourself, and you do have to do these things. Otherwise, the progression is just not going to be there, and the goal's not going to be attained at the end of the day.
Mm.
It's like anything, really, right? Like, you can't just rock up to school and expect to graduate. Like, you actually have to put in the work and like learn the content and do the tests and pass the exam.
Mm.
Just showing up just isn't enough.
Agreed. It's like me just showing up to our combine and expecting to win without prepping for it. I mean, like, I probably could, but
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, right? Like, regardless of the amount of prep work you're going to do, you're still not going to win. But doing the prep work is still required. Otherwise, you're just going to get embarrassed.
Okay. I like the little bit of trash talk. We'll see.
There's going to be months of this, dude.
Oh, I know. It's going to be fucking fantastic.
I'm going to tag you in every single one of my fucking videos too.
Good, because then I'm going to comment being like, fuck, you're still pretty slow for an old man. Fuck, is that as far as you can jump? Jeez, like, you might need to put some springs in your shoes. It's going to be good.
Imagine if we... Yeah, dude, I'm a big advocate for doing the work. I think that's a really nice thing to lead off with, a nice kind of expectation, I guess, to lead off with, because from a client perspective, which I am now, and I have been in the past, it's like you got to. I kind of see it as a bit of a sign of respect as well. I'm not gonna. I know as a coach how much effort I put into designing these progression schemes and designing the right program for the right client to get the result they ask for. And I expect that, I know that Will did the same for me when I was his client. I expect that Killian's going to put the same amount of effort and care into the program that I get from him and the coaching that I get from him. And I kind of see it as my duty and a sign of respect from me to them as a coach that I do hold up my end of the bargain, which the first step of that is actually putting in the effort. They can't do that for me. I'm the one that has to do that. They can design the plan. I'm the one that has to do the work.
Yeah. What would your first sort of like expectation be?
So the one that I put down first is communication.
Yeah.
And not just the more communication, the better. I feel like if we look at communication as an exchange of information, the more between coach and client, the more information I get from you, the better the decisions that I can make.
Yeah.
The less information I get from you, the more I'm just kind of guessing and taking my experience and applying that to you and hoping that something works, because I don't have enough information to make more of an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about communication as that open line of communication back and forth between coach and client, the more of that I get from you, the better.
Yeah.
I'm a big communicator. Like, I like to talk to my clients a lot. I want to talk to you multiple times a week. I want you telling me how things are feeling. I want. I'm never going to tell you to not communicate as much.
Yeah.
If you message me every day, I'm not going to be like, "Well, dude, just message me on Monday." Like, I want the most from you, because that's all information that I can use. It like, shit, dude. Like, tell me what color undies you're wearing today, and if it's not going to be helpful for me, I'll make that decision, and I'll just not remember what color undies you have on. But I want you to tell me as much as you can, and then I'll filter out the information that I want.
Hey, Nick, what if I'm not wearing any underwear?
That's good information. That's good information to know.
Good,
Makes me excited.
Oh.
I usually wear footy shorts as my undies.
Really? Fucking weirdo.
I usually wear footy shorts under my shorts.
See, if I'm at home, like I'm quite a fan of the old free ball.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, those days have passed for me.
But if
the days of having balls, that is.
Yeah.
I neutered myself.
Bummer.
Well, there's benefits.
I'm sure.
So the second point I've got down here behind communication is honesty.
Yeah, nice.
Because within that line of communication, I feel like it needs to be an honest exchange of information. Otherwise, it's useless. I want to know if something is too hard. I want you to tell me that it's too hard. Like, I don't want you to pretend that you did it if you couldn't do it. Because if you're logging that you did 3 sets of 100, but you actually did 3 sets of 80 because 100 was too heavy, I need you to tell me that so that I can adjust my decision-making process. Or if I program you walking lunges and you just can't do them because you keep falling over, instead of just saying that you did them, I need you to be honest with me and tell me that you can't do them because there's a reason why you can't do them and I can fix it. If you're unhappy with the programming, if you're unhappy with something to do with the service that you're receiving, if you're unhappy with the level of communication, if you're unhappy with how I'm addressing something, like, I just want honesty, because if you're honest and we have those conversations, we can adjust things to suit you. If I don't know, we can't change anything. So it's just a matter of having that open line of communication, and then within that line of communication, making sure that we're always being upfront and honest with each other, and that we're not holding things back for whatever reason. And then the service that you receive and the progress that you make is going to be much better.
Yeah. Agreed.
I've had issues with that in the past. I wouldn't say issues with it, but I've had situations in the past where, not for a while, but a few years ago, I've had situations where there was a situation where a client was logging weights that they weren't actually doing because they were slightly embarrassed that they couldn't do what they thought they should be able to do. And I kept asking for videos and videos and videos, and I wasn't getting any videos. And the excuses were that they weren't comfortable filming in the gym, or that the gym was too busy, or my phone died, or I had to rush and I just didn't have time. When in reality, it ended up coming out down the track that the reason they weren't filming the videos is because they weren't actually doing what they were logging.
Yeah.
And then that was then affecting training decisions that I was making and programming decisions that I was making, because I was basing it off the information that I was given that was inaccurate. So just understanding that like we're in your corner and we're here to help you. And as coaches, we're definitely not judging you. Like I know for me, I coach a very wide array of people with different strength levels and different points within their journey
Mm.
in this thing training life. And if you're not being honest with us about what you can and can't do, we can't help you.
Makes it very hard to do so.
Hmm. What have you got?
So my second one was open-mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, like because I tend to work with a lot of coaches will come in with their belief in like, oh, this is how I achieve X, Y, and Z. And then when I come in with a potentially different approach, I'm like, hey, this is how I want to do it. Instead of like, and again, I have no issue with people asking questions if it's to help educate themselves. But if people are coming and going, oh, well, I do it this way and I don't know why you're not doing it that way. It's like, my job is not to confirm your bias. My job is to give you an alternative to potentially give you exposure to something new. And then that can be a really nice learning opportunity for people to go, I've never done it this way. But rather than going, like, again, with some of the coaches I work with, they might go, hey, look, you've programmed me walking lunges when I'm used to just doing Bulgarians. Is there a reason why we're doing walking lunges and not Bulgarians? It's like, well, yeah, there is, and this is the reason. Like I've had people in the past that have asked the question of like, why are we doing this? But it's come from more of a like I had a client who was poached by another coach, and pretty much what that coach did was undermine my programming by going, oh well, I never do that with my clients, so like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and kind of snuck in that way. Which again, in hindsight, it's like, cool, I probably could have done a better job at solidifying my position and my explanations to sort of elicit the responses that I was after and go, well, this is why we're doing it, and this is my belief as to why. Which, to be honest, at the time I thought I did an all right job of, but obviously if they left, obviously not as good of a job as I probably thought I did. Um, but my thing is like, she would ask questions, be like, oh, well, why aren't we doing it this way? And I would kind of, and again, this is not my greatest coaching moment, but I kind of got my back up a little bit when I was like, you're questioning it from a perspective of not actually having much expertise in this arena. And I know that this is words coming from the coach that you're training with. And I know this is their words coming through you. So I'm getting a little bit pissy here. But like, for example, like I was asked pretty much like, why am I programming a spotto press and not a pin press?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, because you have a harder time stabilizing on your chest, I'm giving you a spotto press where you've actually got nothing to rest on to teach you to hold that position better. Whereas if I give you a pin press, you're just going to relax on the pins. That's why I'm giving you a spotto press, not a pin press. And that's
I use
why,
spotto press for that all the time.
yeah. But she was like, oh no, I think that a pin press will be better. I'm like, cool. I'm like, after this prep, we can try it. We'll see how it goes. But I'm like, if the same issue keeps arising, then we know not the problem. But for now, I want to continue this block as we are.
Yeah, I think open-mindedness is essential.
Yeah. So again, like, I'm not saying that my approach on everything will work perfectly. There's open-mindedness on my end as well, because I'm like, if I believe that this process will elicit the outcome that I want and it doesn't, I then need to be open-minded enough to go, this isn't working. Let's pivot.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're not saying is it's my way or the highway.
No.
What you are saying, what I'm gathering is I need you hired me because you trust me enough to do that.
Yeah.
Basically exactly what I said at the start is like you hired me because you trust me enough to make these decisions for you.
Yeah.
Allow me to make these decisions and let's reassess when the time is appropriate as to whether or not these decisions got us to the destination that we were looking for. If yes, great. If no, great. Let's pivot to something different that we can go down that road and see where that leads us.
Mm-hmm.
But let's come in with an open mind and let's understand that you hired me for a reason. Let me do what I believe to be the best thing for you in this situation.
Yeah.
Which is I'm finding I'm that's what I'm doing with Killian, right? Is because part of the bars loaded combine is a 1RM deadlift.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who has a fantastic 1RM deadlift?
Thank you. I try my best.
Me. I would say I have a pretty good 1RM deadlift,
You have a very good 1RM deadlift.
right? And so but you know what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to say, "Hey mate, I want you to coach me. This is what I want you to give me to increase my 1RM deadlift because that's what I've done in the past and I found that it got me to here." Because what would be the point of me hiring him? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, "Hey mate, these are the things that I want you to help me achieve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see how you do that. Have at it." And I'm going to do whatever the fuck he tells me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get to the combine, we're going to see what happens. And I fucking trust Killian. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to assume I'm going to have a really good fucking 1RM deadlift come the combine. But if I don't, that's a really good place then to just have a look and see, okay, this is what we did. This is where we ended up. Could it have been better had we have done some other things? That's a discussion that we need to have.
Mm-hmm.
Or was the result really good? Well done. Now I've learned a new technique
Mm-hmm.
of leading to the result. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, man.
Yeah.
And that's from a client perspective, I think that's a really good quality to come in with.
My next one is pretty much what you came in with before, which is like a willingness to be honest. So I think we can kind of skip past that one pretty quickly and go into your third one, because obviously I think you and I sort of touch base pretty nicely on what we would like from clients and when it comes to being honest. Like, don't be scared of like potentially looking a little bit silly. Like, we would rather you be honest so that we know where you're actually at, so we can actually help you, guide you from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah. Oh, and just to touch on that really quick as well is if just be honest about the whole process, and if there's things in the process that you don't want to do for whatever reason, that's the other thing is like, don't just say that you're doing it if you're not.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've had enough discussions with you at this point to know that I'm going to assume that your programs look fairly similar to mine in the fact that there's not just shit in there for the sake of it.
No.
Like everything in there serves a purpose.
As rhyme and reason.
So,
yeah.
So if you're not doing something just because you don't like it, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and the thing that's in the program to get the result that we're looking for is just the way that we think is the best way to achieve that result. Doesn't mean it's the only way. So if you don't like doing it or you don't want to do it for whatever reason, just that's part of that honesty thing, is saying like, hey, see this thing in here, I actually really don't like doing this, I don't want to do it. Is there anything else that we can do instead of this? And the answer is always going to be yes.
Yeah. 100%.
If you just don't do it, you just don't end up with the result. My third one is be invested in your goal. What I mean by that is as your coach, I am going to do every single thing within my power to get you the result that you hired me to get you.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot care more about you getting that result than you do. Otherwise, we have a problem. You, as the client, you have to care more about getting this result for yourself than I care about getting it for you as your coach. Otherwise, you will never achieve it. If I care more than you do, you will not achieve your goal, because something will come up, it will get hard, priorities will shift, and you just won't ever end up getting there. So if I'm chasing you to do your sessions, if I'm chasing you, that's not my job. Like I've done those years as a PT on the floor. Oh, you're coming in today, Ben? Are you going to come and do your session? No. If you're not invested enough to do your sessions, I'm not going to chase you for it. That's on you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to care more about your goal more than I do.
Yeah.
Because I can only chase you for so long, and then if I don't message you and you don't go to the gym, that's not a good thing.
No.
So, yeah, I coach a few. I coach a few coaches as well, and one of them in particular is often asking me like, "Dude, like, what do you do for your clients that just don't want to train?" I'm like, "I don't have clients that don't want to train because I demand that you are more invested in your goal than I am."
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing more frustrating to me than me caring more than you do about your own goal.
Yeah.
Because I do care, like wholeheartedly. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am invested in my clients' success
Mm-hmm.
heavily. I'm not a coach that doesn't care, but at the end of the day, you need to care more than I do,
Yeah.
and I'll match that level of care factor.
Mm-hmm.
But if I exceed it, that's a problem.
Yeah. Big time.
What'd you get for number 4?
Uh, Same as what you had. I had like being invested in your outcomes. So I come back to the saying of like, for something to change, something has to change. Like if you come in and you're like, hey, look, this is what I do, this is what I've gotten. It's like you can't expect to do the same shit and expect a different outcome. Like, if someone comes in, they're like, oh, I want to get stronger. It's like, cool. Like you might need to eat more food. You might need to do some things to bring down your blood pressure. You might need to do some things to actually learn how to train harder. Like one of my favorite things is like being invested in your outcomes and like, for something to change, something has to change. I love when people come in and they show me their program and it is chockers full of volume. And I'm like, cool, we're going to halve your volume.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, no, but I need to do X amount of sets per week to elicit a response. It's like, no. You just need to train fucking hard on the sets that I give you. Like, make those
Mm-hmm.
sets actually, legitimate working sets and watch your results start to come. Like, that's probably one of my favorite things.
Do you find that that's a really hard transition for people to make sometimes? Because
For some clients,
it
yeah. For some
yeah.
clients, I feel like when I go, hey, you only have 2 sets here. I want you to actually make these. Like, if you can't train these hard enough, I'm going to bump your sets up to give you exposure. But if you can train these properly and you can actually push them hard, then I'll reward you and you'll have like 1, maybe 2 sets. The amount
Yeah.
of buy-in that like for the clients I work with, that provides a huge amount of buy-in for a lot of them where they're like, fuck yeah, if I can only do 2 sets, I'll be stoked.
Yeah, but 2 hard sets is not an
Brutal.
easy task.
No.
Yeah, 2 hard sets is definitely not an easy task, and I emphasize the word hard. But I do find that that's a hard transition for a lot of people to wrap their head around the fact that like you do probably only need to do half to sometimes even a quarter of the amount of total sets that you're doing in a day
Yeah.
to get a good. Like I just sent off. I had a huge day of programming today.
Yeah.
Um, I had a bunch of athletes compete last weekend. Not the weekend just gone, but the weekend prior at States, which we covered in the last week's podcast. A
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of athletes. So those guys all had a little bit of a chill week last week. I programmed them all like 2 or 3 sessions, just like general movement post comp, and then this week they got their next block of training. So today was a big check-in day and writing a decent amount of programs,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of those programs or a few of those programs for people that don't have competitions in the very near future were more like a higher volume, lower intensity style, like quote unquote hypertrophy program with a strength bias.
Mm-hmm.
they were probably some of the highest overall sets of on days that I will ever program. It was 11 total sets.
Mm.
And like, that's a lot of sets. I
Yeah.
was writing it and I was like, oh, dude, this is a lot of sets in this day. And then I counted and I was like, oh, it's 11. They should be pretty good.
Mm.
But that's 11, like, dick to the wall.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sets.
Yeah.
But you see some programs that have like 25, 30 sets.
And I think this is kind of where we kind of need to be able to zoom out a little bit and go, well, like, what is our actual objective that we're trying to achieve here? Like, is it purely just hypertrophy, or is it kind of like a bit of hypertrophy with a bit of strength bias towards it? Because I feel like when there is the strength bias towards it, we're still going to have to manage volume through sets. Whereas if you're going, oh, like, my objective is to try and build tissue and I'm just going to do X amount of sets, like, chances are the intensity on those sets is probably not going to be super high.
Even with a pure hypertrophy program, I'd still lean much more towards that high intensity top set back down set approach, like a JP style programming, which is top set back down set, even for starting with your compound movements, moving into isolation movements, still doing top set back down set over the more higher volume Mike Istratel Renaissance periodization style volume approach. I'm going high intensity all the time.
Yeah,
personally,
my bias will always lead there as well. Like if I think back to like lockdowns when I did my recomp phase and I lost like 9.5 kilos in 12 weeks, a lot of my training there was like 4 sets of 12, like 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 15. It was a little bit like, I say like high volume, really wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things. But compared to what I do now, like most of my training is like I do like 1 or 2 working sets and that's it. But if I look at,
you also had access to less load during lockdown. No, or you had tons of plates and stuff.
I had a full Alico set up in my house.
Yeah, okay,
I had
because I did that.
Yeah,
I had access to, I didn't have access to that much weight. I think I had like a total of 160 kilos.
I had like the full like 459.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
See, I couldn't do like a top set back down set because like I didn't have enough weight to make that, you know, a viable option for a lot of things. So I did a little bit more sets to make up the intensity through volume.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't push the higher load intensity.
My thing was very much around just like trying something different. I was like, you know, I've done the whole like strength and powerlifting approach for years and years and years. I'm like, I'm going to take that approach where it's like, I'm going to do say 4 sets of 12 shoulder press and I'm going to rest 90 seconds between sets. And I've got like my program laid out and I'm going.
I can't stand that style of training.
I
get bored so quick, man.
I typically do as well, but I think because I have like, that was the like training was the one thing I really looked forward to during the day because I would train at night most days. And I was like, I'm going to chuck some music on. I'm going to turn the lights off. Like it's going to get weird. Like I obviously train at home by myself. So I'm probably going to train naked. Like there was some weird sessions, man, but it was fun. And I got really lean. I got really jacked and I was like, this gets kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't.
But
just get bored.
Yeah, I do as well. But yeah, I think my number 1 is like number 4 is like being invested in your outcomes, and obviously making sure that your actions line up to the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, and not sitting there going, oh well, you know. I think this sort of like comes back to my number 1 of going, well, I've paid you for X, Y, and Z. That guarantees me the results. Like no. Like you need to be invested in your outcomes. You need to be willing to work, and you actually need to work.
Yep. Yeah, I've got for number 5, complete your check-ins is what I wrote down.
Yeah.
But that I want to expand on that because complete your check-ins for me means complete your actual check-in on your check-in day. That's not a maybe. That's a non-negotiable. So if I lay out, if when I think of check-in, the bare minimum for me would be video your sets, send them through, complete your check-in, and there was a third one. And have an open line of communication. Like, write back to me after I send you a check-in and answer the questions that I ask you. And or if I don't ask you any questions, like, write back and acknowledge that you got the check-in and that you understand what I'm asking of you, and or you understand the feedback. Let's make this a discussion. I don't just want to send you a video and then not hear from you until next week, because I feel bad about that. Like, I want to know that you understand. I want my check-in to be the bare minimum framework for a conversation. So when I think about a check-in form, I think of a check-in form as a bare minimum framework of information that I'm asking for you. And we're going to build upon that information during the conversation that we have. I'm going to write you a new program. I'm going to send you a video. I'm going to dissect your videos and send that to you form-wise. I'm going to then expect to get some conversation back from you in response to that. And then we can build upon that conversation throughout the day, that where you leave that, like, quote unquote check-in being like, okay, wow, I really have a really good understanding of what happened last week, what he saw, what he's asking from me, what my tasks are this week to improve upon that. And I just feel good about that conversation that we had.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I fill out this form, I get a video, I don't talk to Nick until next week. That's not how this works around here. It's a bare minimum. And yeah, it's not an option. It's quite literally the least that you can do.
Yeah, like I tell people, I'm like, the minimum that you will get from me is like a formal check-in at least once a week. But I'm like, I'm a resource and you're here to learning and get better. So I'm like, if you want to ask me questions throughout the week, I'm like, do so. Like, I obviously, like, I kind of approach it in a slightly different way where, like, I will try and give people a little bit more autonomy and kind of go like by all means, like, make an executive decision if you want, but let me know what you've made an executive decision about, and I'm going to let you know if it's the right decision or not. And then we're going to use that as a learning opportunity. Like, for me, I don't really want people messaging me being like, oh, there's like my partner made some treats, like, can I eat one? It's like, if you want to eat one, fucking eat it. Like, you know what your plan is, you know what our objectives are. If that aligns with our end goal, fucking go for it. And if it doesn't, make it an informed decision as an adult about what you actually want to achieve with this, and make a decision. Like, I have some clients that are like, I don't need much from you throughout the week. I'm like, cool. So I'm like, what do you actually want me for? They're like, I just want you to rip my technique apart and tell me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. And then obviously that then bleeds into like, cool, like, this is all looking good. But I'm like, are you actually fueling yourself for your sessions? And they'll be like, oh, like, yeah, like, I kind of have something to eat before. I'm like, what do you eat? And they're like, oh, I have like a sandwich. I'm like,
Cool.
I'm like, eat more. I'm like, if nothing else, I'm like, eat 2 sandwiches. And then they eat 2 sandwiches and like, oh my God, my training feels so much better. I'm like, But yeah, I absolutely agree that check-ins are a necessary requirement.
Yeah, it's how we gather information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take a less autonomy approach. Not so. I wouldn't say less autonomy. I like to give in the moment form feedback if I'm able to.
Yeah.
Which most of the time I am able to. So if say you're my client and you send me a video of your warm up squats, I'm going to say, how did that feel?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see anything in the video that you'd like to improve on? And then I'm going to expand upon their answer based on what I see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, focus on that for the next set. And I'll do that through their whole session if I'm available to do so, which most of the time I am.
Yeah.
If I'm not available for whatever reason, like I'm not available right now because I'm talking to you, they're going to have to make that decision on their own, which I'm also quite okay with.
Yeah.
But they will still also get a detailed video every week breaking down all of the videos. But I also do like to provide that in the moment
Yeah.
coaching because I find, like, as well, if we have clients that are squatting a couple of times a week, benching 2 or 3 times a week, deadlifting once or twice a week, it's like that's multiple opportunities during the week that we can make some meaningful change to technique. Where it's like if we wait a week, sometimes there's a missed opportunity there that we could have implemented in the very next session,
And
or
then,
even the very next set.
then they potentially ingrain that across a few sets, a few sessions. Yeah.
It's like, am I going to do that to someone like Joe Whitaker? I mean, maybe if he thinks it would be beneficial, but I also think when you've been doing it 10 years, however many years, 10 years, you pretty much know those things already. It's more of there's more autonomy involved because you've seen it all at that point. But it's like along the way, you have to build that knowledge, and every rep that you do is an opportunity to do something better. So why not take advantage of that if the resource is there?
Yeah.
And I think at the very least, I like to get back to people daily.
Yeah.
Like if they send me a video on WhatsApp and I'm, if I'm at footy or if I'm on this podcast or whatever, I'm not going to get off this podcast at 7 p.m. and not respond to people until tomorrow morning. I will respond to all the messages that I have got in the last 3 hours when I get off the podcast.
Yeah.
And then they'll be able then to implement that tomorrow or Thursday or Wednesday or whenever the next session is.
Yeah.
The in-depth stuff comes later, but that's and I know not everyone does that, and I also know that that's not the only way to do things. That's just the way I like to do things, and I think that's what I think that's going to appeal to some people, and it's not going to appeal to other people, and I think that that's okay as well. It's okay to do things a little bit differently.
100%.
And that also comes back to the whole, like, if you're hiring a coach, you're obviously hiring them for a reason. So just trust in their process. Or if you don't like their process, just don't hire them in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's not, we're in the time of social media where information is readily available on how people do things. People are very aware of the way that you coach and the way that I coach and the way that Killian coaches and the way that Will coaches and the way that Josh coaches and like the way that Rob coaches, the way that people know how people do things. Like that's what social media is for. I'm not on social media because I like it. I'm on there because it's a tool for me to show the world what I do and how I do it. If you fuck with that, then like let me do it.
Yeah.
Because you fuck with it for a reason. Yeah, that's all I got, man. I just thought that would be a really interesting topic based on the fact of me becoming a client again. And it kind of got me thinking around, like, what do I need to bring to the table as a client? Because sometimes it's a bit of a weird thing to be on the other side of the table.
It's been a long time since I've been on the other end of the table.
I like it, man, because you know why? I like it from the perspective of, like I mentioned before, it takes the responsibility off me making those decisions for myself when I spend all day making them from other people.
Yeah.
But I like it from the fact of this conversation that we've just had is like it made me think about what do I need to bring to the table as an athlete, not as a coach.
Yep.
And then identifying those things and humbling myself enough to put myself in that position, I feel like can make me a better coach as well, because I can see things from the other side of the table.
Yeah. So
that's another reason why I like it.
I'm just going to add on my last one, and that's the ability to zoom out. So what I kind of mean by that is you'll see a lot of people, they have like one bad session. They're like, oh, my whole week's ruined. Or they'll have like an average week of training, like, oh, this whole program's fucked now. I need a new program to like set me up right. You and I, like, we work with clients that we've potentially worked with for years. If you think about how many training sessions, how many training blocks, like it's a lot. we, like you and I will both undoubtedly have some weeks where, like, for example, I've just had 2 weeks off training. I'm not sitting there going,
Mm-hmm.
oh, all the progress I've made this year is down the toilet and the rest of my year is now fucked. I'm like, cool. I had 2 weeks off because I was crook. I'm going to slowly ease back into it. I'm going to get back into a rhythm pretty quickly because my body knows what it's doing and it'll just adapt really quickly. And then I'm back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, there might be 6 weeks of training for, like, from when I took it off from being sick to when I'm actually back to like normal, where it's like, okay, cool. Like, it was a bit bumpy, but like, we're back. But most
Mm-hmm.
people would look at that and go, oh, well, there's 6 weeks of crap there. Progress is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to kind of like zoom out and go, cool, 6 weeks. That's cute. Like, who gives a
Yep.
shit? I think that's a really important thing to be able to kind of go, one shit session doesn't equal a bad training week. One shit training week doesn't equal a bad training block. I think being able to kind of zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture is a really helpful tool to
And
have.
one training block doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve your goal
Correct.
either. And it's also making the distinction between, like, what does a training session mean?
Mm.
Uh, it doesn't necessarily have to mean good or bad based on did I hit these numbers or did everything feel good.
Mm.
A bad training session or a bad training week or a bad training block in the grand scheme of things might actually be a good thing because it allows some reflection. It might change the course of some decisions. It might make you double down on other things. It might make you take some things out and replace them with other things. It might reframe the time frame in which you're trying to achieve these goals. It might have none of those effects. It might just be a bad block, but it doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad. It can be a bad block that leads to better decisions down the track as well, which would end up being a good block.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like what's good and bad is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I think that's really important, man.
I think so too.
I mean, I'm a great example of that too. I mean, if you think I spent how long trying to build my top end strength in squat, bench, and deadlift. Like that was the only training goal I had, and then the knee really just said no more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've dabbled in things here and there. I've tried to find workarounds. I haven't really been as consistent as I would like with my training pretty much all year. I mean, I'm still training, but it's not like I was.
Mm.
It's not training to the same intensity or direction or consistency that I was training to last year, for example. But I also don't think that as a 6 month overview, I would say that that's shit because what it did do was the inconsistency, I guess, of trying to find different things that I could and couldn't do led me to where I am now, which is wanting to hire a coach to make me better at fucking sprinting. And who would have thought that that would have ever happened when you first met me?
Not
Like,
me.
no. So it's like that's a great outcome for a 6 month block that someone could look at and be like, "Wow, that was a really poor 6 months of training from you." But in reality, like it could be the 6 months that leads to the next fucking decade of my training focus. Who knows? It could be a very pivotal 6 months. And without that 6 months, would I have ever have found, the passion that I have now for running? Maybe not.
Mm.
So it's kind of like what's good and bad.
Yeah.
And that's a weird question to ask, but I think that kind of encapsulates that like zooming out approach and being like, okay, what is actually good and bad in the grand scheme of things? It all just is.
Mm. And I think as long as we can kind of, again, if we can look at things and kind of go, well, what is good and bad? Like, can we take a lesson from it, whether it's perceived as good or bad? I think as long as there's an opportunity for reflection, for growth, and for movement to kind of be influenced by some of those outcomes, I think that's a really beneficial place to end up to.
Yeah, which would make a bad block good.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, yeah, like
There's no good or
I
bad.
love that question, because what is good or bad? Like there is no good or bad. Like we all just exist.
Yeah.
All we're doing is existing, and we're just making decisions on the information we have. And a bad session or a bad week or a bad block, which is going to lead to more information, which then could lead to a better decision, which then actually makes it good. So there is no good or bad. It just is. We just we just are. Like there just is what it is.
You're having a very philosophical moment here, and I'm proud that like my hippiness is kind of starting to rub off on you in some ways.
Bro, don't get me started on the just existing thing, because that's an hour rabbit hole that I will go down.
You know what we should do?
Because
We should take mushrooms one episode and then have like a really deep philosophical discussion about like what is this?
do you know what a nihilist is?
Yes.
I am that. Like I am unsure that there even is a meaning to life. Like I really think that we're just here. Like it just is. Like like there's no greater good, there's no meaning, there's no direction. Like we just exist, and
So
that's just
for everyone
it.
who's listening that doesn't quite know what the definition of nihilism is, it's the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless.
It's just meaningless, bro. It's just we're just on a rock in space. Like there is no meaning. We just are. Like there's no meaning to this shit, man. We're just existing on this spiraling rock.
Brutal.
Let's get fucking. And so like if that's the approach that if that's the outlook that we have, which it is, that's how I think about things. It's like we're just existing on this spiraling rock. There's no fucking meaning to this thing. Like, what's a bad training day? It's just an opportunity to gather some more information and make a better decision. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's a sick point to end on, man.
Fuck
and
yeah.
A really good way to point out to all of our listeners that I'm just a fucking nihilistic, cynicist cunt that just doesn't believe in anything or think there's any moral values to the universe.
Don't be like that. You're not that sinister.
I'm not sinister. What's the word that I'm looking
No,
for?
when you're like, I'm a nihilistic, sinister cunt. I'm like, you're not sinister, but you're a nihilistic cunt.
I'm not sinister. That's not the word I'm looking
Pessimist?
for. Pessimistic. I was thinking, yeah, I thought it was cynicism, but it's not. It's pessimistic.
Like you can be a cynic, and that's like the belief that like everything is bad and shit.
Well, it's kind of the same
like
thing, isn't it?
Being cynical.
That's the same as pessimistic?
They're very similar, yeah.
Yeah, because like I think I'm more. That's the word I was looking for. I didn't mean sinister. I meant like the cynicism, whatever, cynistic.
So the definition of cynicism is the inclination to believe that people are motivated purely by self-interest. So like skepticism, or like an inclination to question whether something will happen or whether it's worthwhile, and that's kind of like pessimism.
Yeah, so it's almost the same thing, almost interchangeable. And I think like that for sure.
Yeah, so like the definition of pessimism is a tendency to see the worst aspect of things or believe the worst will happen.
I think I'm probably both, to be honest.
Yeah, one and the same.
I think I'm probably nihilistic, fucking pessimistic, cynicistic old man that wants to get really fast. Yeah, that's going to win the pass loaded combine.
We'll see.
In flying colours.
We'll see.
All right, man. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm happy to wrap it up there, and let that old man go have his dinner and yell at the neighbors for being too loud.
Oh man, we live in the loudest goddamn neighborhood, man.
Yeah, we have
I know
dickheads that do
what.
like burnouts up and down our street like all the time. And I'm like, can't just don't.
I live on this. I live on a really long straight road,
Mhm.
so we have people that drive like absolute fuckwits up our street. But we also have this house that's literally right there
Mm.
outside that wall, and my bedroom is directly behind this wall, like
Mhm.
behind where the computer is. But to my right, that house right there, when we first moved in, was a really lovely old couple
Mhm.
that were renting the place. They kept the lawns really nice. Never heard of them. Always said hello when I was mowing the lawn and he was mowing the lawn. Just really nice couple. They moved out. These young people have moved in and they have parties like every second weekend. There's a pool there, so they're like have music up. They're like yelling, diving into the pool at like 3 a.m. And I just am such an angry old man every time it happens.
Just pour acid into the pool and just let them jump in.
Well, yeah, I've wanted to throw dirt bombs over into the pools. I haven't stooped that low yet.
Just like fling the dog shit over the back fence and be like, psych.
It's so annoying, man. That used to be me, and now I'm the old man that's in bed.
Last night, Megan and I were in bed at like 7:30, laughing at the fact that we were both like, "Yep, we're ready to go to sleep." We're like, it's 7:30.
Yeah, dude. I have to convince him to stay up past 8. I'm like, dude, it's 8 o'clock. I can't go to bed yet. I'm not going to sleep. She's like, oh, I'm going. See ya.
Peace.
I did.
All right, man. Enjoy
Thanks
your week.
everyone for tuning in. Yep, you too.
Catch you guys later.